Chapter 3403. The little monk, who was wearing a kasaya, acted as if he did not feel the heat of the pool. He calmly walked to the center of the pool. Damn! Lung Yuma could not help but exclaim. Is the little monk's kasaya a supreme treasure? Or was the little monk pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger from the beginning? Jing Yuan had already walked to the center of the pool. It was unknown when a golden alms bowl appeared in his hand. He slowly placed the golden alms bowl into the pool. The little monk put his palms together and slightly closed his eyes. He was muttering something. Then, the boiling pool water started to boil as if it was being roasted on a raging fire. The surrounding temperature suddenly increased by several degrees. Lung Yumal wiped the sweat off her face and took a few steps back. Her worried eyes were fixated on the center of the pool. Will the little monk be all right? As if to confirm her worries, a loud rumbling sound came from the blood pool in front of her. Lung Yumal watched as the center of the blood pool caved in. Jing Yuan's figure was instantly swallowed by the boiling pool water. Little monk! Lung Yumal shouted. Without thinking, she pulled out the red lotus soul stealing saber and jumped up. Buzz, buzz, buzz! Suddenly, the saber in her hand trembled violently. A huge force came from the blood pool and pulled her down. What's going on? Red Lotus, is there something attracting you down there? Lung Yuma desperately wanted to pull the saber back, but the suction from the blood pool was getting stronger. Even her soul was about to be pulled out. Damn, am I going to die here today? Lung Yuma cursed. She could not hold on any longer and was completely swallowed by the scorching heat wave. So hot, so painful. In a daze, Lung Yumal felt as if her soul was about to burn. The buzzing sound from the red lotus soul stealing saber in her hand became more and more ear-piercing. The temperature of the saber hilt also became higher. Lung Yumal instinctively wanted to put down the saber. However, she realized something and held it tightly. Blood flowed from her hand to the saber hilt and slowly flowed down the saber blade. In the surrounding pool water, tiny red crystals began to gather on the saber blade. The red lotus soul stealing saber, which already had a dark red luster, emitted a dazzling red light. One after another, red lotus symbols began to appear on the blade. The originally boiling red pool water actually began to cool down during this process and gradually stopped boiling. However, Lung Yuma was in so much pain that she wanted to die. She wanted to scream. He wanted to chop off his hand that was holding the knife. She even wished for nothing more than to immediately pass out and never wake up again. The pain of the soul being scorched was absolutely not something that the damage to the physical body could compare to. Just as Lung Yumal was about to collapse, she felt her body being embraced in a cool embrace. Something touched her forehead, her cheek, her lips, softly and tenderly. The cold liquid flowed down her burning lips, into her teeth, and down her throat. In an instant, the burning pain disappeared without a trace. Lung Yuma struggled to open her eyes. The first thing he saw was the little monk's worried expression. Lung Yuma suddenly sat up. Little monk, are you all right? I saw you being swallowed by the blood pool. Jing Yuan looked at her in a daze. For the first time, his face, which was sometimes young and shy, and sometimes gentle and compassionate, was moved. Chapter 3404. Just because you were worried about me, you didn't even care about your own safety? Lung Yuma touched her nose and said embarrassedly, I didn't think too much at that time. I didn't think about ignoring my own safety either. It was my saber that didn't listen to me. Speaking of the saber, Lung Yuma looked down and was shocked. What the hell, this is my saber. How did it become so beautiful? The body of the saber had already turned red. As spiritual power was injected into it, the red lotus was faintly discernible. From then on, she could clearly feel that the saber had become stronger than before. No, not just the saber. Lung Yuma's eyes widened. She felt as if she had been hit by a pie. My cultivation broke through the peak of the tribulation passing stage and became a golden immortal? No way. How is this possible? I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't feel anything at all. Jing Yuan quietly hid his injured hand behind his back. As divine power surged, the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. He pretended that nothing had happened and asked, "Did you enter the ruins of Wushang Palace before? This saber should have been obtained from Wushang Palace, right?" Wushang Palace. Lung Yumal was stunned. A vague and distant voice rang in her mind. "Feeling your passion and cleansing Wushang Palace. I taught you the Red Lotus Soul Stealing Saber and the Wushang Flame Technique. I only hope that the soul of Wushang will remain in the world forever." Jing Yuan looked at her expression and understood. Wushang Palace was a big religion in the ancient times. Only they could create treasures and techniques that could absorb the filth of heaven and earth. "I really have to thank you, Miss Yumal. If you didn't purify the soul-nurturing pool, I would have to go through a lot of trouble to achieve my goal." Lung Yumal then realized that the two of them were still in the pool, soaking wet. But the pool water was clear, emitting a dazzling 7-colored brilliance. "What happened? Bastard. Didn't I tell you that it was dangerous here? Why did you have to come in at?" Hearing the commotion, the Hongyi sect disciples who rushed and were stunned by the sight before them. The pool water stopped boiling. What was going on? Jing Yuan used a golden bowl to scoop up a bowl of water. Once the water entered the bowl, it vanished without a trace. Seeing the disciples of the Hongyan sect enter, he bowed to them gratefully. "Thank you, Hongyan sect, for bestowing the soul-nurturing pond water. This is just a small token of my gratitude. Please pass it to your sect leader." With that, Jing Yuan left behind a storage ring on the ground and disappeared with Lung Yumal. Lung Yumal looked at the sudden change in the scene in front of her and was dumbfounded. "How did we get out of the soul-nurturing pool? Little monk, could it be that you have a teleportation array on you? But that's not right. The two arrays can't be stacked. We're in the soul-nurturing pond array, so the random teleportation array shouldn't be effective." Jing Yuan smiled shyly and didn't say anything. Seeing his reaction, Lung Yumal did not pursue the matter. Instead, she waved at him and said, "Little monk, now that our wishes have been fulfilled, it's time to part ways." The smile in Jing Yuan's eyes vanished in an instant. An unprecedented sense of loss welled up in his heart. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he felt that reunion and separation were impermanent, and they would eventually be separated. Lung Yumal also felt a sense of loss and reluctance, following which she couldn't help but want to slap herself. Lung Yumal, you have to be more careful." Chapter 3405. Remember in 1 second, 800 male sign / say, net although this little monk was a feast for the eyes, he was still a monk. Could it be that you are so hungry that you even want to covet a monk? Could it be that you are so hungry that you even want to covet a monk? She quickly suppressed the restless thoughts in her heart and smiled. "Little monk, let's say our goodbyes here. See you later," before she could finish. Lung Yaoshan's angry voice came from behind. "Girl, you are too much. Even if you want to be with this little monk, you don't have to leave without saying goodbye, right?" "Lung Yumal, grandfather, why are you here?" Lung Yaoshan was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. "Do you think I'm such an unenlightened person? As long as you really like it, do you think Grandpa will object? Do you need to elope behind my back?" Lung Yumal, "Grandfather, listen to me. I and the little monk are just... Little monk, I'm telling you." Lung Yaoshan had already turned to Jing Yuan. "If you dare to bully my granddaughter, I will not let you off even if I become a ghost." Jing Yuan's face was slightly red, as if he was at a loss. Finally, under Lung Yaoshan's interrogation, he nodded his head with a red face. "Little monk, why are you nodding your head?" Lung Yumal was going crazy. "Grandfather, it is not what you think. I am here to enter the soul-nurturing pool." However, this time, she did not finish her sentence, because a familiar voice came from afar. "Lung Yumal, you are too much. Do you want to escape just like that?" "Oh no." Hearing this voice, cold sweat seeped out of Lung Yuma's forehead. It was actually Lu Shuyan. Why did they chase after her? And from her tone, did she already know that she was lying to her? Lung Yumal laughed dryly. "Sister Lu, I am sorry. I did not mean to lie. Good sister, I did not misjudge you. Lu Shuyin slapped Lung Yuma's shoulder heavily, interrupting her words, then laughed loudly. I did not expect that Sister Yuma and the little monk's cultivation is not high, but you actually have such ability. Even the scariest filthy place in our soul nurturing pool was purified. Now the soul power there was dozens of times richer than outside. Who knew how many souls could be repaired and how many lovers could be married? I have already reported this matter to the sect leader. He is overjoyed and wants me to bring you to the sect as guests. He wants to thank you personally. So he didn't expose them as a fake couple. Lung Yuma heaved a sigh of relief, and the smile on her face became calm. Big Sister Lu is too polite. It was just a coincidence. Now that the little monk has recovered from his illness, it's time for us to go. Don't. Lu Shuyin pulled her back and repeatedly said, Don't. Sister, it's not easy for me to meet someone as congenial as you. How can we separate like this? Come with me to the Great Goose Sect. I'll ask the sect leader to preside over your wedding. Lung Yuma said, No need. There's no need to be so polite with me. Was he afraid that the little monk's master wouldn't agree? Humph. If the old monk wants to object to it, he can come to our Hanyin sect. I'll reason with him. He will suffer retribution for obstructing someone's marriage. Lung Yuma was about to break out in cold sweat. There's really no need. The little monk and I still don't plan to get married. Not getting married? Why? Lu Shuyin suddenly raised her eyebrows and coldly looked at Jing Yuan. Could it be that you, a little monk, dislike my sister? You want to abandon my sister? Jing Yuan. Chapter 3406. Remember in 1 second. 800 mail sign small / say net. Hey, little monk, what do you mean by not saying anything? Hey, little monk, what do you mean by not saying anything? This time, even Lung Yaoshan couldn't stand it. Do you really despise my granddaughter? I think you're tired of living, right? Jing Yuan hurriedly said. How could I despise Miss Yuma? It's just that when I became a monk, I swore to sever my ties with the world of mortals, convert to Buddhism, and never abandon it. Even though she had already expected it, Lung Yuma's heart was still inexplicably aching. She did not know what was wrong with her. She had only met this little monk by chance, and had only known him for a few days, but it was as if a figure was deeply engraved in her mind and could not be forgotten. In the past, she did not believe in love at first sight. Now, she would rather not believe in it. When Jing Yuan said this, his body seemed to be surrounded by a holy Buddhist aura. It made people unconsciously believe that this was an eminent monk who was devout and devoted to Buddhism. Even Lu Shuyin and Lung Yaoshan momentarily forgot to speak. However, when he saw Lung Yuma's darkened eyes, the benevolent Buddhist aura around him instantly disappeared without a trace. At this moment, his mind had almost forgotten about his master, his senior, and the Buddha that he had sworn to believe in. He only wanted to rush over and hug the girl, making the sadness and disappointment in her eyes disappear. He wanted her to be as free and unrestrained as the sun, gorgeous and warm. Lu Shuyin suddenly came back to her senses and angrily said, Little monk, are you fucking burning the bridge after crossing the river? My sister brought you into the soul nurturing pool to heal your injuries, and now you're turning your back on us. Sister Lu, actually we are not a couple. Lung Yuma's voice suddenly sounded, interrupting Lu Shuyin's long-winded speech. What did you say? Lung Yuma revealed a guilty and helpless smile and looked at Song Wu, who was behind Lu Shuyin. I think brother-in-law has already seen through it, right? Thank you for not exposing us. Song Wu revealed a silly smile. I can see that you don't have any bad intentions. There was one more sentence that he did not say. Moreover, you two are very compatible. Lu Shuyin's eyes widened. Silly Song. Can you explain it clearly? What do you mean you didn't expose them? What did you see? Lung Yuma told him about how she wanted to enter the soul nurturing pond to see her mother, and how the little monk wanted to take the water from the soul nurturing pond. Hence, they decided to pretend to be a couple. Lu Shuyin was dumbfounded. She was so angry that she almost exploded. Did it mean that she had been moved by their unparalleled love for nothing? Lung Yuma smiled and said, "Extraordinary times call for extraordinary things. However, the relationship between me and the little monk is fake. It is true that I recognize you as my sister." Lu Shuyan was still angry at first, but when she heard this, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. "At least you have a conscience. I don't care if you have an unparalleled love with this little monk or not. I will still recognize you as my younger sister." Lung Yaoshan, on the other hand, was still glaring at her. "Last, is what you said true? Don't tell me you're still covering for this little monk after he dumped you?" What infuriated Lung Yaoshan the most was that his granddaughter was so outstanding. Why did the little monk look down on her? What poor taste. What do you mean by Buddha having a granddaughter? Lung Yuma burst into laughter. "Grandfather, I have only known the little monk for 3 days. Would you believe me if I said that I have deep feelings for him? We pretended to be a couple just to enter the soul-nurturing pond. We don't have any feelings for each other. On the contrary, it is all thanks to him that I can see my mother. Grandfather, you can't bite the hand that feeds you." Chapter 3407. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say, net there was no pop-up window for free reading. Lung Yaoshan snorted and didn't say anything. Lung Yuma turned to look at Jing Yuan and smiled. "Little monk, we really have to say goodbye this time." Jing Yuan moved his lips and wanted to ask her if they really didn't have any feelings for each other. However, he didn't say it out loud. He put his palms together and lowered his eyelashes. His golden red kasaya made his skin look as fair as jade, but it was also cold. "Amitba, Miss Yuma, we will meet again." After saying that, Jing Yuan turned around and left. His footsteps were very slow, as if he could feel the girl's aura for a longer time. However, no matter how slow he walked, she would eventually disappear. He would never be able to see or feel her again. The pair of dim eyes unconsciously flashed in his mind. There was also the unconcealable sense of loss and attachment in those eyes. This farewell might be a permanent one. In the vast 3 realms, they would never be able to meet again. He didn't even have the chance to thank him for getting the purest soul-nurturing pond water for him. And when he saw that she was in danger, he rushed over to save her. Jing Yuan's footsteps stopped, and his eyes flashed with an unprecedented light. He suddenly turned around, as if he had forgotten that he could teleport and fly, and ran back the way he came. Lung Yuma looked at the back of the little monk in a daze. She suddenly felt as if someone had dug out a piece of her heart. She touched her face, thinking that she would feel some tears. However, there was nothing. She couldn't help but chuckle. She cursed in her heart. "Lung Yuma, you've learned to be sentimental and pretentious now. How could a man that she had been with for 3 days be reluctant to part with? Who was she acting like this for? If it was a normal unmarried man, she would just give up all her reservations and chase him. However, he was a little monk who was devoted to Buddhism. Was she going to force him to return to secular life and make him give up his faith?" Lung Yuma raised her head and looked at the blue sky. This time, she felt a trace of bitterness and pain in her eyes. Her heart was empty and uncomfortable. It would be great if her senior and junior brothers were by her side at this time. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth junior brother, little junior sister, seventh senior brother. If only they were by his side. Fourth senior sister, fourth sister. "Is it really you?" Just as she was thinking about this, the young man's excited voice came from the sky. It came from afar, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Lung Yuma. Lung Yuma suddenly opened her eyes, and what she saw was a handsome face with dimples. "Fourth senior sister. Wow, it really is fourth senior sister. I finally found you. Luo, you came down from the flying puppet." Her feet didn't even touch the ground as she pounced forward and hugged Lung Yuma. Lung Yuma caught him. After a while, she heard her slightly hoarse voice, "Shao Qi, why are you here? Fourth senior sister, why are you here again? Right, this is the soul-nurturing pool. Are you here to see Aunt Lung?" Luo, you knocked her head. "I'm so stupid. Why didn't I expect to see you here?" She listened to the young man's chatter, listened to his cheerful laughter, and felt his warm and sincere embrace. The bitterness and emptiness in her heart seemed to fade away in an instant. A smile slowly bloomed on Lung Yuma's face as she hugged Luo Yu back tightly. That's right. What did she have to be sad about? What was there to be sad about? Even without the little monk, she still had her senior and junior brothers and the Xiao Yao sect. Chapter 3408. In 1 second, 800 mail sign, small divided by talk, net, Lung Yuma stopped. She turned and saw the little monk rushing back. Jingyuan, why are you back? The little monk's chest heaved up and down, and the anxiety on his face had not faded. But when he saw the man and woman hugging each other intimately, his expression turned cold and distant. The hand that was holding the prayer beads unconsciously tightened, almost crushing the beads. Something dark and ugly was bubbling in the depths of his heart, wanting to drill out. Jingyuan suddenly came back to his senses and realized what he was thinking. His face turned pale in an instant. He closed his eyes and put his palms together. Amapa, I will definitely repay your kindness in the future. He closed his eyes and put his palms together. Amapa, I will definitely repay benefactor Yuma's kindness in the future. With that, he turned and left. This time, he really did not look back. Lung Yuma let go of Luo Yu and wanted to call out to him, but she swallowed the words when they were at the tip of her tongue. So what if she called out to the little monk? Could she let the little monk accompany her all the time? Could she really snatch the little monk back to be her husband? Lung Yuma revealed a bitter smile and then let out a long sigh. The little monk only turned his head, and her heart that had just calmed down was in chaos again. Luo Yu looked at Lung Yuma's expression and suddenly got close to her. Fourth senior sister, are you in love? Get away. Lung Yuma slapped her away angrily. So what if I'm in love? Can you make a monk return to normal life? Luo Yu touched her nose and did not dare to provoke the lovelorn fourth senior sister again. Lung Yuma asked, where are little junior sister and the rest? Have you seen them? Luo Yu then remembered something. Fourth senior sister, something happened to second senior brother. He urgently needs the soul nurturing pond water to save his life. Lung Yuma was shocked and quickly asked what happened. At this moment, the little monk, the unparalleled love, and the bitterness and resentment were all thrown to the back of her mind. Luo Yu briefly explained what happened recently. Sixth senior sister said that if there is no soul-nurturing pond water to restore his soul, second senior brother may be completely crippled for the rest of his life. Isn't it just soul-nurturing pond water? Lung Yuma pulled out a disdainful smile. This is what I have the most right now. Do you want the diluted inferior products or the purest core soul liquid? However much junior sister wants, I can give you. After second senior brother is cured, we'll go and skin every single person from that bullshit over the Wave Palace. It just so happens that I'm in a bad mood and need to vent. On the other side of the forest, Jing Yuan, who had already walked far away, slowly stopped at the top of a mountain. He stood on the cliff, looking down at the mountains, rivers, houses, and fields, his expression blank and vacant. After a long time, the red rosary beads on his chest lit up slightly. Jing Yuan's expression changed, and he put his palms together, returning to the appearance of an eminent monk who had not fallen into the mortal world. With a slight movement of his spiritual sense, a solemn Buddhist hall and a vague figure hidden in the darkness appeared in front of him. Upon seeing this person, Jing Yuan hurriedly put his palms together. Greetings, eldest senior brother. Little junior brother, is your heart in disorder? A low voice slowly floated into Jing Yuan's ears. His back suddenly stiffened, and his fingers tightened on the rosary beads, but he did not say anything. A soft sigh sounded. Did you get the soul-nurturing pond water? I didn't let you down. After a moment of silence, the low voice asked again, what about the whereabouts of the remnants of the Shenlu sect? Did you find it? Chapter 3409. Sky-floating island, Liberty City. Zizizi. There's a sharp, stinging noise in her mind. Inchuching frowns and slowly opens her eyes. Miss, you're finally awake. Please wait a moment. I'll inform the city lord right away. Inchuching holds her head and sits up, looking around at the unfamiliar environment. Where is this? Why is she here? His messy thoughts began to slowly clear up. Enchantress remembers that she lured away the people of Above the Waves Temple and then was caught and tortured. Enchantress's small and thin body unconsciously curled up into a ball and shivered as she recalled those hell-like hours that were completely dark and sunless. At that time, she didn't even know how that group of people was torturing her. She only knew that she was in a lot of pain. Squeak! The door is pushed open, and Mayan quickly walks in. "Missing, you're awake?" Enchantress looks up blankly, her pale little face showing a confused and absent-minded expression. When she woke up for the first time, she was in too much pain, too desperate, and too eager, so she didn't see the person who saved her clearly. Now that she can see clearly, she almost thinks that she's in fairyland, in a dream. How could there be such a beautiful woman in the world? Is she really still alive? Is she already dead? And what she's met now is actually a fairy from heaven. The little girl can't speak, but what's on her mind is almost all expressed on her face. On the pale little face, a pair of big eyes flicker, as if they can speak in place of her voice. Mayan can't help but reach out and gently stroke the little girl's head, her voice unconsciously softening. "Don't be afraid. You're still alive and well." "Missing, do you feel any discomfort on your body now?" On her body? Those broken bones and the wounds riddled with holes on her flesh. It was only now that Enchantress realized that the pain and the remaining traces had actually disappeared. She survived? And she's still in good condition? Did this fairy-like girl in front of her save her? Is there really such a miraculous doctor in the world? Suddenly, Enchantress's expression falters, and the admiration and joy on her face turns into anxiety. Her hands are waving frantically. "Don't worry, Missine." Mayan quickly presses her hands down, her expression softening. "The person you asked us to save has been rescued. He's fine." Enchantress was taken aback, and then tears rolled down her cheeks without warning. She suddenly straightens up, kneels on the bed, and repeatedly kowtows towards Mayan. Mayan doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. She quickly gets up to help her up. However, the little girl was very stubborn and would kowtow no matter what. Behind him came the sound of wheels grinding across the floor. Muyin turns around and sees Chu Moli looking at them with great interest. She immediately says in a bad mood, "Third senior brother, aren't you embarrassed to continue watching the show?" The woman in front of them might be their future sister-in-law. Could they bear the kowtow of their future second sister-in-law? The corners of Chu Moli's lips curled up slightly. Only then did he speak unhurriedly. "Miss Enchantress, is it? Don't you want to see the person you risked your life to save?" As expected, Enchantress stopped kowtowing and looked over with a face full of joy. Suddenly, her expression froze, and she made a gesture with her hands, her eyes filled with doubt. Muyin didn't understand sign language, but Chu Moli did. He smiled and said, "The person that Miss En wants to save is called Chinjio, right?" Enchantress nodded in a daze, but there was a hint of vigilance in her big black and white eyes. Chapter 34:10. However, the next moment, she hears the clear and pleasant voice of the fairy doctor softly ring in her ear. "Chinjio is the second brother of our Xiao Yao sect. So in terms of gratitude, it should be us kowtowing to you. Missing, thank you for preserving second brother's chance of survival." They planted a puppet goo in second brother's body. This kind of goo specializes in devouring the souls of humans and beasts, turning them into a mindless, self-destructing shell that obeys orders. Mayan takes Enchantress to the window where Chinjio is sleeping and says in a low voice, "I can remove the puppet goo now, but I can't guarantee that the soul absorbed by the puppet goo can be returned to second brother unharmed. So now we can only wait for Xiaoqi to come back with the soul recuperating pond water. With the soul recuperating pond water to nourish him, even if it's just a weakened soul recuperating pond water. Plus her shun musician skill, soul, calming soul. Mayan can at least guarantee that second brother still has a chance to be cured." Enchantress sits on the bed and looks down at the unconscious Chinjio, her eyes unblinking. There seems to be soft and brilliant starlight slowly dispersing in her eyes. She unconsciously reaches out to grab Qin big rough hand, gently holding it. Her lips gently open and close, and she noiselessly whispers, "Second brother, this time, Xiao Qing finally won't drag you down." Missing, did you know my second brother before? Hearing Mayan's voice, Qing suddenly loosens her grip on Qin's hand. Her two small hands hurriedly hide behind her, and her whole face and ears are red, just like a little girl who has been caught playing a prank. Mayan is once again amused, and she can't help but feel happy for her second brother. She didn't expect that second brother, with his silly appearance, could actually find such a kind little girl who wholeheartedly thinks for him. Qing is embarrassed for a while and wants to explain to Mayan, but she remembers that Mayan doesn't understand sign language. She frowns and thinks for a moment, then makes a gesture of writing with a pen. Mayan smiles and nods. Soon, someone brings up a charcoal pen and a cardboard. Qing scribbles on it for a long time. Then she raises the cardboard in front of her for Mayan to see. It turns out that second brother is the son of the former elder of Lingbo Hall, Yufeng. However, when Jade Phoenix gave birth to Qinjiu, she passed away due to dystocia. Even Qinjiu, who had been in her mother's womb for too long during childbirth, had lost her mind and became mentally retarded. In the entire Over-the-Wave Palace, be it the adults or the children, they all ridiculed and bullied him in every possible way. As for Qinjiu's father, he was just a low-level cultivator with an ordinary cultivation level. He did not even have the qualifications to stay in the surmounting wave hall. After Jade Phoenix died, she could only move to a small town next to Embroidered Silk City. At first, Qinjiu's father would take good care of him. However, he immediately became impatient. After marrying his second wife and giving birth to a few children, he completely disregarded Qinjiu. She allowed him to be ridiculed by the people in town and suppressed and framed by his stepmother at home. It was clearly not his fault, but in the end, Qinjiu was always the scapegoat. As for Qinjiu's father, he would never investigate and would only make him obedient. When Qinjiu was 7 years old, a group of young cultivators from the towering Wave Palace passed by the town and discovered the posthumous child of the once high and mighty elder Jade Phoenix. This group of people remembered the fun of bullying and humiliating Qinjiu, so they reverted to their old ways. Qinjiu couldn't bear it anymore and accidentally killed a disciple surnamed Li. Unexpectedly, the disciple turned out to be the legitimate son of the Li family, a big family in town. Chapter 34:11. In order to retaliate, the Li family smashed and tortured Qinjiu every day. They even accidentally killed the baby girl that Qinjiu's stepmother had just given birth to. From then on, Qinjiu's stepmother hated him to the bone, and even Qinjiu's father loathed him. Not only did they not listen to his explanation, but they also scolded the ignorant Qinjiu with harsh and unpleasant words every day. She watched Qing describe Qinjiu's childhood experience in words. Muyan's face turned cold. No wonder second brother always felt very insecure. When he was bullied by Hua Biyue in the Tianxian Mountains, he refused to resist. He seemed to be afraid that he would implicate others, implicate the Xiaoyao sect. It turned out that second brother had such a painful experience when he was a child. Over the wave hall, Muyan chews these 3 words over and over in her mouth, her eyes revealing a cold, murderous intent. How strong is Muyan's divine soul now? Releasing the murderous aura from her body, Qing suddenly turns pale with fright. Muyan comes back to her senses and quickly restrains her breath. Miss Yin, I'm sorry for scaring you. Please continue to tell me everything that happened that year. Qing quickly shakes her head, then lowers her head again and writes several lines. Then she raises the cardboard again. Half of the little girl's face is hidden behind the cardboard. Only her smooth forehead and twinkling almond-shaped eyes are exposed. She looks indescribably soft and cute. Muyan smiles, and her eyes fall on the cardboard. Perhaps the death of her little sister in swaddling clothes stimulated Qinjiu's nerves. When the Li family came again, Qin Jiu finally exploded. This time, it caused a great sensation. Even the elders of the Over-the-Wave Hall and the Lord of the Over-the-Wave Hall, Yin Tianxiang, were alarmed. Yin Tianxiang had been recuperating in seclusion all these years. It wasn't until he came out of seclusion this time that he knew that the only posthumous child of his close friend Yu Feng had fallen into such a state. Yin Tianxiang was shocked and angry. He quickly took Qin Jiu home and took care of him. And Yin Chuqing is Yin Tianxiang's daughter. It's different from others who despise Qin Jiu for being stupid. Yin Chuqing could not speak since she was a child. Because of her defects, she never had any prejudice against Qin Jiu. Instead, she liked to play with him. With the shelter of the Lord's family, Qin Jiu had a happy time. However, the good times did not last long. 14 years ago, there was an unforeseen event that caused their lives to change drastically. The Treading Wave Temple had never been able to refine a puppet that surpassed the commander grade. As a result, they were always at the bottom of the 8 major sections. One day, Deputy Temple Master Sun Yuchong brought a piece of great news. He had found the world's best puppet attraction in a valley, and he might be able to refine a real monarch-level puppet with it. Therefore, Yin Chuqing's father brought his trusted subordinates along with him. However, these people, including Yin Tianxiang, all died in the valley. Sun Yuchong was the only one who managed to escape. Later, Sun Yuchong became the master of the Over-the-Wave Palace. Uncle Sun, who used to be gentle and kind, bared his ferocious fangs. Yin Tianxiang's father had a peak commander-grade human puppet. Before he died, he handed over the control of the puppet to Yin Chuqing. But before Yin Chuqing could sign a contract with a human puppet, Sun Yuchong sent people to kill her. It was Qin Jiu who risked his life to protect her so that Yin Chuqing could complete the contract with the human puppet. However, Qin Jiu was knocked off the sky cliff and never heard from again. Yin Chuqing's eyes were bright, and there seemed to be crystal tears swirling in them. Chapter 34:12. Yin Chuqing's eyes were bright, and there seemed to be sparkling and translucent tears swirling in them. She wrote several sheets of paper before she finished telling a story from a long time ago. At that time, I always thought that second brother was dead. I killed him. I feel like I'm dreaming to be able to see him again. I heard from my second brother that he was very happy in the Xiaoyao school. It's great to have all of you by his side all these years. The girl smiled softly and blissfully, but she couldn't help but shed tears. However, he was not sad or sad. He was truly too happy. Mu Yin reaches out and rubs her head. It's also our second senior brother's fortune to have met you. I still have some matters to attend to. Can I trouble Miss Yin to stay here and take care of second senior brother? Her gaze swept over the 2 interlocked hands on the bed, and she suddenly smiled slyly. I'm afraid Miss Yin has no choice but to take care of me, even if she doesn't want to. Yin Chuqing was stunned. Only then did she realize that she was holding Qin Jiu's hand again. Moreover, Qin Jiu was clearly still unconscious, but those hands seemed to have their own consciousness, firmly grasping her little hand. Qin Jiu's hands were very big, and there were thick calluses left behind by cultivation on his palms. He held Yin Chuqing's smooth and soft little hand tightly, causing him to feel a slight pain. But Yin Chuqing felt very at ease. It was as if this was the only way to prove that her second brother was still alive and by her side. But now that it's been pointed out by Mayan, Yin Chuqing immediately blushes, wishing that she could find a hole to burrow into. Mu Yin teases this cute second sister-in-law enough before leaving with a smile. Sure enough, she was as bad as third brother. After Mayan leaves, the room falls into silence. Only then did Yin Chuqing gently pat her burning little face. She turned around and looked at Qin Jiu, who was lying on the bed, with a gentle and blissful gaze. Suddenly, TST, TST, TST. Once again, a sharp buzzing sound rang out in his head. What was that sound? Yin Chuqing furrowed her brows in pain. Qin Jiu, who was holding his hand, also frowned. Yin Chuqing only found it jarring. Qin Jiu revealed a pained expression. Ah! Yin Chuqing anxiously called out twice. wanting to check on the condition of the Qin wine. A ray of light suddenly lit up between Qin Zhou's eyebrows, and then a familiar cold voice sounded in Yin Chuqing's ears. "Eldest miss, you've gone out to play for so long. Shouldn't you be back by now?" "Sun Yuchong." Yin Chuqing widened her eyes in horror. She subconsciously opened her arms, wanting to protect Qin Zhou behind her. At the same time, his hand touched the shelf beside him. As long as this was pushed down, it would definitely attract the attention of the people outside. That way, second brother could be saved. "Eldest miss, I advise you not to act rashly. Otherwise, your beloved puppet will be destroyed." Yin Chuqing's movements suddenly froze. "Hee, first miss is so obedient. You should know very well what this person means to you, right? If it's destroyed, not only will your father not be able to rest in peace in the underworld, I'm afraid he'll be in so much pain that he'll want to die, right?" Yin Chuqing was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and her eyes were bloodshot. "I don't know what kind of backer you found for you to survive, but you should be very clear that as long as you're still on this floating island, you won't be able to escape the palm of our towering wave palace. If you don't obediently obey, you'll only implicate those who help you." Yin Chuqing's eyes were brimming with anger and unwillingness, her hands tightly clenched into fists. Chapter 34:13. Hee. Eldest miss, don't blame me for not reminding you. I'll only give you 1 day. Within 1 day, if you don't bring Qin Zhou back to Over the Waves Hall, your treasure, human puppet, will disappear from the world. And the person who took you in will also die without a burial place. The light on Qin Zhou's forehead slowly disappears. The noise in Yin Chuqing's ears and Sun Yuchang's voice also disappear at the same time. It's as if nothing had happened. But Yin Chuqing knows that it's not. She stares at the unconscious Qin Zhou on the bed, tears silently falling from her eyes. Those crystal-clear eyes are filled with reluctance, sadness, and indignation. However, in the end, it all slowly turns into persistence and determination. "What did you say? Miss Yin is missing?" Hearing the subordinate's report, Mayan shows an incredulous expression. "Early this morning, Miss Yin said that she wanted to go for a walk in the city and told us not to follow her. However, she did not return even after the sun had set. We then realized that something was wrong and sent people to look for her, but there was no trace of Miss Yin at all. Then we found this in second young master's room." The subordinate hands over a letter. Mu Yin opens it to take a look, and her brows immediately wrinkle. When Chu Moli enters the door, he happens to see her absent-minded appearance. He can't help but chuckle. Future second sister-in-law ran away. Mayan is startled. Third brother also heard that Miss Yin left without saying goodbye. Chu Moli, no, it's just a guess. Junior sister, didn't you say that future second sister-in-law also has a puppet goo larva in her mind? Moreover, this larva was clearly just planted. I guess that these people wouldn't plant a goo in second sister-in-law's body for no reason. Mayan frowns, but I'm sure that the puppet goo larva can't hurt Miss Yin now. Suddenly, her voice pauses. The young goo in Miss Yin's body is the child goo of the puppet goo in second brother's mind? Chu Moli smiles and doesn't speak. Mayan's face becomes very unsightly. I didn't think about it at all. She thought that the two goo were completely dormant and wouldn't have any effect on second brother and Yin Chuqing. She didn't expect that it was a mother and child goo. Once it gets close, it will be activated for a short time. Chu Moli didn't have any medical skills, so he naturally didn't think too much about it. He had completely regressed from the outcome. Mu Yin said with a sullen face, "So, Miss Yin left because she was controlled?" No. This idea was quickly rejected by her. If the larva of the puppet goo had the ability to control people's minds, she would have discovered it long ago. Chu Moli held the letter left behind by Yin Chuqing and also smiled faintly. She left on her own accord, but she didn't do it willingly. She should have been coerced. Treading Wave Palace should still have something that can threaten her. Floating Island, Towering Wave Hall. Eldest miss, didn't I ask you to bring back the Qin wine? Sun Yuchang sat on a tall wooden armchair and looked down at Yin Chuqing with a faint smile. Why did you come back alone? Chuching pursed her lips tightly and didn't speak. Her pair of almond-shaped eyes glared fiercely at him. How dare you? Who told you to treat the Alliance Master with such an attitude? A foot ruthlessly kicked her from behind, sending her tumbling to the ground. Just a useless mute. Do you think you're still the daughter of the lofty palace master? Sun Yuchong caressed the jade ring on his hand, speaking unhurriedly. Chapter 34:14. Sun Yuchong touched the jade ring in his hand and said slowly, Miss, do you think you can save Qin Zhou's life by sneaking back? Hee. Don't you know that as long as the child goo in your body is matured, you can easily find the position of the mother goo? Chuching's face was pale, and her body trembled violently because of anger. Sun Yuchong looked back at the young man beside him. The young man slowly walked down the stairs and came to Chuching. With a slight movement of his divine sense, a colorful poisonous snake and a reddish-brown poisonous scorpion appeared in his hand. Chuching's eyes showed obvious fear. Her thin and white hand trembled as she drew in the air. Big brother, please don't do this to me. Sunlei looked down at the weak and pale girl. A touch of pity flashed in his eyes, but it was immediately replaced by jealousy, anger, and distortion. Little Qing, you asked for all of this. I treat you so well, don't care that you are mute, don't care about your background, and want to marry you, but you only have eyes for that fool Qingjiu. Why? How am I inferior to that idiot who can't even be considered a human? Chuching's hand slowly stopped drawing. Her eyes were red, and the fear on her face could not dissipate, but she forced herself to straighten her back, unwilling to beg for mercy again. Seeing her like this, Sunlei hated her even more. He suddenly bent down and grabbed Chuching's chin, forcing her to open her mouth. Then he stuffed the poisonous snake in his hand directly into her mouth. He made Chuching swallow all kinds of poisons one by one. This was the crudest and cruelest way to make the goo ripen. Whoa! Chuching struggled desperately, tears streaming down her face. Seeing this scene, the others in the hall could not bear to look away. Only Sun Yuchong and his son, one with interest, the other with madness, did not have the slightest pity. Bang! Suddenly, a figure slammed into Sunlei like a bolt of lightning. The burly young man and the poisonous snake in his hand were knocked away together. Chuching was still in a state of shock when she saw the figure in front of her. She saw the figure in front of her and could not help hugging her and wailing. It was a tall, slender woman who was wrapped up tightly from head to toe and wore a mask on her face. She was surrounded by a powerful psionic pressure that protected the crying girl behind her. But strangely, her eyes, which were exposed to the outside world, were cold and still. He was like a walking corpse, a puppet without any signs of life. Sunlei crawled up from the ground and stared coldly at the woman who was standing in front of the little girl. He said sternly, "You knew, get out of my way." The woman called Jade Slave did not move at all. "Father," Sunlei roared angrily. "What's the use of keeping such a disobedient puppet? Didn't you say that you were going to destroy her completely? Without the Jade Slave, I want to see who will be able to protect you, Chuching, in this towering wave hall in the future." Sun Yuchong glanced coldly at Yunu, stood up, and slowly walked down the stairs. By the time he was in front of Chuching, the corners of his mouth had already curled up into a smile. Lei is right. With that, monarch, peerless puppet, this old and disobedient thing is no longer of any use. Since you dare to obstruct us, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a pure black dagger was already in his hand. The dagger looked ordinary, but the moment it appeared, the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped by more than 10 degrees. It was bone-chilling. Chapter 34:15. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small / say net. Wonderful pop-up window, free reading. As Sun Yuchong injects his spiritual power into the dagger, the eyes of Jade Slave, who is the closest to him, flash with a strange light, and her body trembles involuntarily. This dagger is called the Spiritual Energy Disintegrating Knife. It's a heavenly god tool that only the sect master of Over the Wave Palace is allowed to possess, and it's specifically used to dismantle and destroy puppets. No matter how strong a puppet is, it'll turn into powder under this spiritual energy disintegrating knife. Seeing the appearance of the spiritual energy disintegrating knife, Enchantress's face loses all color. She rushes over and stands in front of the puppet jade slave. Sun Lei sneered. Enchantress, she's just a human puppet. Why are you so protective of her? What's more, do you think you can protect her just because you want to? With tears in her eyes, Enchantress glares at the father and son. She suddenly rushes over and grabs Sun Yuchang's hand that's holding the spiritual energy disintegrating knife. Sun Yuchang thinks that she's going to take the knife, and his face shows a mocking expression. The next moment, however, he sees that soft and weak girl, who seems like she could be blown away by the wind, hit the blade of the dagger head-on. Blood splatters everywhere. The girl's delicate body slowly falls down like a willow catkin, falling into a pool of blood. From the huge hole on top of her head, a small bug that's almost invisible to the naked eye flows out along with the blood. Because it came into contact with the energy emitted by this spiritual energy disintegrating knife, it twitches a few times, then dies. Jade Slave's hand, which wants to save her, freezes in midair. Like a puppet that suddenly lost its master's order, it no longer moves. But her long eyelashes tremble slightly. The entire hall falls into a deathly silence. The calm expression on Sun Yuchang's face finally cracks, turning into a twisted malevolence. Damn slut, she actually dared to kill the child Gu. Floating Island, Liberty City. Muyin is using the Shun musician skill, Calm Soul, to repair Qin Jio's soul. Suddenly, the unconscious Qin Jio abruptly sat up on the bed. Her eyes were bloodshot. Second brother, you're awake. Muyin quickly stops playing and is about to step forward. Qin Jio disregarded everything and stood up from the bed, letting out a hoarse roar. Little Qing, little Qing, little Qing. Second senior brother, you can't move now. Muyin jumps in fright and promptly gets up to stop her. However, Qin Jio's strength was shockingly great. Furthermore, it was as if he had gone insane. He kept shouting for Shao Qing as he rushed out. His shouts were so shrill, crazy, and desperate that anyone who heard it would feel as if their heart was being squeezed. Muyin took out the silver needles, wanting to calm Qin Jio down first. However, when she turned her head, she saw her second senior brother with tears streaming down his face. Men did not shed tears easily, not to mention second senior brother, who did not know pain, bitterness, or even grievance. How sorrowful must he be to cry like this? Muyin takes a deep breath, then slowly inserts the needle into the back of his neck. After Qin Jio's emotions stabilized a little, she then said gently, Second senior martial brother, tell me, did something happen to Miss Yin? Qin Jio blankly turns his head, and Muyin's face is reflected in his eyes little by little. Little junior martial sister. Qin Jio seems to finally see the person in front of him. Little junior martial sister. Save little Qing. Muyin holds his hand and helps him to sit on the bed. Okay, second senior martial brother, don't worry. No matter what happened to Miss Yin, I will definitely save her. Second senior martial brother, believe me, okay? Chapter 34:16. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net, wonderful pop-up window, free reading. Mo believe, junior sister, Qin Jio said eagerly. He knew that there was nothing in this world that his junior sister couldn't do. Muyin, tell me, what happened to Miss Yin? Qin Jio desperately wanted to explain, but that was the connection between the mother and child puppet Gu. He couldn't see it clearly. Plus, he was clumsy with words, so how could he explain it clearly? Qin Jio was so anxious that he almost went crazy. His eyes were usually covered with a layer of white veil, but now they were red, as if blood was about to flow down. Second brother, calm down. Feeling the puppet Gu in Qin Jio's body stirring, Muyin quickly said, I have a way. She plucked the strings and said in a deep voice, Second brother, The sound of the zither will lead you into a dream in a moment. Don't resist. Let me see with my own eyes what happened to Miss Een. An hour later, Muyin opened her eyes, the anger in her chest almost gushing out. Seeing Een Shuqing's miserable state, not to mention the second brother, even she couldn't help but want to tear those beasts into pieces. Muyin was about to pluck the strings to wake Qingjiu up, but she heard a knock on the door. City Lord, Lingbo Temple has sent someone to see you. You are the City Lord of Liberty City. Sun Lei saw the girl in white walking out slowly, and his eyes almost stared straight. He didn't even notice that his saliva had flowed to the corner of his mouth. At this time, there was only one thought in his mind. How could there be such an alluring stunner in the world? If he could marry such a woman, he would have no regrets in his life. Muyin smiled gently. Under the respectful welcome of Zhou, Zixuan, and the others, she sat in the seat of honor. Elder son, I didn't expect you to be an elder of Lingbo Temple, one of the 8 major sects, at such a young age. Sun Lei raised his chin, showing a proud expression. I wonder what advice Elder Sun has come to my Liberty City this time. Sun Lei coughed lightly. I dare not advise you, but we have received news that the 2 thieves wanted by my Lingbo Temple have appeared in your Liberty City. With that, he took out the arrest warrant and showed it in front of Muyin. Will City Lord Jun deny it? Muyin glances at him with a smile that isn't a smile. Elder Sun, what is your purpose? It's better to speak frankly. Sun Lei chuckled. City Lord Jun sure is straightforward. I hope that Liberty City can hand over this thief to the Towering Wave Temple. Of course, the Towering Wave Temple will definitely not give less than what is due. In fact, we will even double the amount. Just consider it as forming a good relationship with Liberty City. What does City Lord Jun think? Mine stood up. As she walked down, she asked casually, Elder Son, Liberty City even took in a little girl who couldn't talk. She seemed to be from the Soaring Wave Temple. I wonder how she is now. Sun Lei's face sank when he heard this. He gnashed his teeth and said, that shameless slut. As a member of the Over the Wave Temple, she actually dared to betray the Over the Wave Temple. What's the point of keeping her alive? Naturally, we should kill her. Muyin's eyes sink, and an ice-cold, killing intent flashes through them. Sun Lei, City Lord Jun, please hand over that Qingjiu as soon as possible. Swish. A cold light flashes in front of him, and a silver light slashes Sun Lei's throat. Before he could finish his words, his eyes widened, as if he couldn't react to what had happened at all. The other people of the Towering Wave Temple are also completely dumbfounded. Only when Sun Lei's bloody head rolls to their feet did someone let out a hysterical scream. Chapter 34:17. Remember love net in 1 second, providing you with wonderful reading. You're crazy. Are you crazy? That's the head, son. How dare you kill Elder Son? How dare you kill the head's only son? Even Zhou Zixuan and the others were dumbfounded. They had thought that Muyin would never hand over second young Master Qin, but they didn't expect that their miss would directly behead someone because of a disagreement. And the one she beheaded was the head's own son. Withdrawing her sword, Muyin didn't even look at Sun Lei's body. She said lightly, Where's General Wei? Boss. Boss Wei is in the martial arts practice field. I'll call him over right away. Muyin, no need. I'll go there myself. Zhou Zixuan, Miss, those people from Over the Wave Temple are running away. Muyin looked at the fleeing figures of a group of people and couldn't help showing a sarcastic smile. Don't worry, they can't escape. Martial arts practice field of Liberty City. Under Wei Tsang's orders, an army of close to 100,000 was training in an orderly manner. Not long ago, they were just a motley crew who escaped from the gravel hill. They were selfish, bullied the weak, and feared the strong. If they gathered together, they might not even be able to defeat a disciple of the weakest sect. However, in just half a year, these tens of thousands of people had been completely reborn. They had become brave and skillful iron-blooded lions. These transformations were brought about by Muyin's elixirs and the skill Rebirth, as well as Wei Mian's warlord strength and professional training. Now, They were not only obedient, but their strength had also increased greatly. Wei Mian had brought them into the dangerous jungle and experienced one bloody battle after another. They were already battle-hardened lions who had been honed in the battlefield of blood and fire. From now on, they no longer had to fear being abandoned in the gravel hill. They didn't have to fear being abolished and suffering unbearable pain. They married and had children in this increasingly prosperous Liberty City, and they had something to look forward to in their lives. Unlike half a year ago, at this time, Mu Yin and Wei Mian were equivalent to their parents, and Liberty City was their home. Especially Mu Yin. Everyone knew very well that without the city lord, they would always be a group of trash in the gravel hill without a tomorrow or a future. So when Mu Yan's figure falls next to Wei Mian, the tens of thousands of people who had not seen the city lord for a long time all revealed excited expressions and knelt down in unison. "Greetings, Castellan." The dense army knelt down on the training field in unison, their bodies emitting a piercingly cold, killing intent. Even Mu Yin, who had already seen the formation of the Nether Flame Army, couldn't help but be moved. It was only now that she realized how big of a difference there was between a team led by a champion and a team without one. Wei Mian slowly bows towards Mayan. "Greetings, Mississippi." Mu Yin got right to the point. "If I want to go against Lingbo Hall right now, would you dare?" Wei Mian was slightly startled. Then the corner of his mouth slowly curved up, revealing a disdainful smile. He turned his head to look at the army of 100,000 below and said in a clear voice, "One of the 8 great sects of the floating island, surging Wave Palace, injured the city lord's senior brother, and now they've come to bully us." The city lord asked if we dared to go against the towering Wave Palace. "Answer me, do you dare? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?" Wei Mian's eyes burst with a bright light, and he shouted loudly, "Those who offend my Liberty City will be killed, destroyed, and annihilated." Kill, destroy, annihilate. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 34:18. For a time, mountains howled and tsunamis shook the world. At this moment, no one knew that a power was silently rising in a corner at the border of the dark Parasol Desert. Soon, it would turn into a hurricane and sweep across the entire floating island. Floating Island, Immaculate Web City, where Towering Wave Palace was located. Have you heard? Towering Wave Palace is besieged by an army of 100,000 and is about to be finished. Are you kidding me? The Leaping Wave Temple is one of the 8 great sects. Unless the 3 major alliances or the Lan family empire mobilizes all their strength, who can trap them and kill them? I can also testify that this news is absolutely true. I have a relative who sweeps the outer courtyard of the Over the Wave Hall. He just ran out yesterday and said that the entire Over the Wave Hall is in a mess. The army that besieged the towering Wave Palace is said to be from Carefree City? Liberty City? Did you hear it wrong? Which corner of the world did they come from? I've never even heard of them. How could they possibly mobilize 100,000 soldiers to besiege the Over the Wave Palace? Just as everyone was feeling bewildered, the sound of a bugle horn suddenly came from the direction of the sound. Everyone who had doubted the possibility of the treading Wave Palace being besieged was stunned. This is the call for help from the other 3 alliances, 6 families, and 7 sects. No way. Is the Over the Wave Palace really at the end of its road? Quick, let's go and watch the show. I'd like to see which Carefree school is able to force Over the Wave Palace into such a desperate situation. It can't be that one of the 8 sects is going to change hands again, right? The crowd surged towards the Over the Wave Palace like a tide. Some of the more powerful cultivators rode on their swords and soared into the sky. Those who were timid climbed to the peak of a nearby mountain and watched from afar. Then they saw a densely packed army of 100,000, all dressed in uniform, surrounding the entire Over the Wave Palace. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. There's really an army of 100,000. What kind of force is this? Do you see the word embroidered on their clothes? I told you that they are from Liberty City. The person who first exposed the news immediately became arrogant. But there were also people who were full of doubts. Liberty City? Is there such a city on the floating island? Why haven't I heard of it before? At this moment, the crisp cry of a bird suddenly came from the sky. Look, the people from the demon sect are here. Isn't that the pavilion master's summoned beast? Before the crowd could see who it was, another person cried out in alarm. It's the Beitang family. They also came. Look, he's here with us. Even the family is here. Of the 6 families and 8 sects, 2 families and 3 sects have already come. Are they all here to save the towering wave palace? Whoosh! Even one of the 3 alliances, the Luo Yun Alliance, is here. In the blink of an eye, these people from the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects all flew into the Rain Mountain, which was surrounded by 100,000 soldiers. On a mountain peak in the Rain Mountain, Mayan is standing on top of a cliff, coldly looking down at the far distance. Behind her was Qin Jiao, who was still unconscious, and Chu Moli, who was leisurely drinking tea. Suddenly, a few figures shot out of the over-the-wave palace, whose doors had been tightly shut. Finally, it hovers in front of Mu Yin. At this moment, Sun Youchang's face didn't have the slightest trace of the aloof, sinister, and cunning expression he had when he was facing Yin Chuqing. I want to chat with more like-minded people. Chapter 34:19. His face was distorted, alternating between blue and white. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment as he stared at the girl in her early 20s. Waves of resentment and fear welled up in his heart. As early as a few days ago, he thought that his puppets were at his fingertips, and he was dreaming of ruling over the world. However, in the blink of an eye, news came that his only son, Sun Lei's soul lamp, had been extinguished. Sun Yuchang was shocked and angry when he heard the story of his son's tragic death. He swore to tear Mayan into pieces and bury the whole Liberty City with her. However, he didn't even have time to gather his troops and summon enough puppets. 100,000 troops were already pressing down on the border. Sun Youchang's cultivation was at the peak of the sea-splitting realm. There was no lack of experts in the over-the-wave temple. What's more, they had so many powerful puppets in their hands. So, in the beginning, they didn't put this 100,000 troops in their eyes at all. However, as soon as they fought, Sun Yuchang realized how wrong he was. That was not 100,000 low-level cultivators. It was clearly 100,000 lions led by a general. And the strength of this general was far beyond what Sun Yuchang had seen in the Luo Yun League. Generals were divided into 4 levels. If it wasn't a general, then what was it? Could it be comparable to the generals of the Lan family empire? There is a world of difference between 100,000 army led by a general and 100,000 army led by no general. And the blow that this little Liberty City gave him was far more than that. That beautiful girl sitting on the top of the mountain, her white clothes fluttering in the wind. When the zither in her hand slowly sounded a pleasant tune. The strength of the already powerful army commanded by the king's generals actually doubled again. Was it the assistance of a musician, or some magical witchcraft? Sun Youchang's face was livid. Resentment and fear surged in his heart. But in the end, what rose in his heart was a greedy desire. Such an army, such a general, such a heaven-defying assistant musician, plus Qin Jiao's puppet. If he could take all of them on this floating island, who could be Sun Youchang's opponent? But he also realized at the same time, if it was just a head-on confrontation, even if the over-the-wave temple could take over this force, they would definitely suffer heavy losses. In the end, others would benefit from it. That was why he blew the horn. He wanted to take over the force in front of everyone. His gaze swept across the cultivators who were gradually gathering around them. The resentment on Sun Youchang's face slowly faded. He stared at Mu Yin coldly, his voice sounding like a viper that had crawled out of an ice house. You are Jun Mu Yin, the mayor of Liberty City. Did you kill my son, Sun Lei? Mayan calmly looks at him, saying word by word, Where is Yin Chuqing? Sun Youchang's face twisted again. You killed my son for Yin Chuqing? Mu Yin asked again, Where is Yin Chuqing? Before I confirm that she's alive, I have no interest in talking nonsense with you. Bitch, who do you think you are? Sun Yuchong had never been treated so poorly before. For a moment, he was seething with anger. But before he could finish speaking, behind Mu Yin, Wei Guan's spiritual sense moves. The 100,000-strong army seemed to have received an order in an instant. They suddenly took a step forward in the direction of the over-the-wave palace, and the weapons in their hands slashed forward in unison. I want to chat with more like-minded people. Chapter 34:20. At the same time, Mu Yin plucked the strings of the zither. The sound of the zither turned into white light and fell down. With a loud bang, the thousands of puppets guarding the outermost perimeter of the towering wave palace were all turned into dust by this casual strike. Sun Yuchong felt as if someone had grabbed his throat. His mouth opened slightly and his lips trembled, but he couldn't say a single word. Mayan coldly looks at him. I'll ask again, where is Enchantress? Was he still alive? If Enchantress is already dead, then we don't need to listen to any of your words or schemes. Because I want your entire towering wave hall to be buried with my second sister-in-law. Second sister-in-law? Hearing this form of address, the people of Overwave Palace were stunned. Even the people from the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 7 sects who had rushed over had shocked expressions on their faces. So it turned out that the towering Wave Palace had captured someone else's close relative. No wonder Liberty City would be so furious. There was complete silence below. Sun Yuchong was so angry that he couldn't speak. Mine's eyes are ice cold, and she's about to lower her raised hand again. Even if Enchantress was still alive, she would definitely be in great danger. Any further delay would bring her one step closer to death. Since threats didn't work, he might as well raise the entire Overwave Palace to the ground. Don't. Enchantress is not dead yet. We'll bring her out immediately. The people of Treading Wave Palace were badly frightened. They didn't have time to consult Sun Yuchong. They hurriedly yelled and rushed in to carry the unconscious Enchantress out. The moment she sees Enchantress, Mayan's pupils suddenly contract. There was a huge gash on the little girl's head. The wound was even bigger and more hideous than the one on Qingjio's head. Her little face was deathly pale, and her chest was barely moving. Even if he used his divine sense to sense her from afar, he could tell that her life force was getting weaker and weaker, and it was about to end soon. Mayan's figure flashes, and she rushes in front of Enchantress to treat her. However, Sun Yuchong was faster than her. A cold and cruel hand suddenly clasped Enchantress's neck. With just a little bit of force, the girl's fragile neck would be completely broken, leaving her with no chance of survival. Mu Yan's movements come to a halt, her eyes coldly staring at him. Sun Yuchong laughed in a low voice. Enchantress, that bitch is indeed still alive, but she's not far from death. If you want her to live, you better not act rashly. Right now, she's like a porcelain that would shatter with a light touch. Furthermore, I've planted a goo in her body. Even if you really snatch her back, as long as I use my divine sense, she'll still die. Mu Yin looked at the little girl in Sun Yuchong's hand, took a deep breath, and threw a porcelain bottle in front of Sun Yuchong. Let my second sister-in-law swallow the healing elixir first. I'll listen to you slowly about the rest of the conditions. Sun Yuchong gnashed his teeth in hatred at her arrogant attitude, but the situation was stronger than he was. This little girl's cultivation was not high, but the power she held in her hands was too strong, and it made him yearn for it too much. Moreover, Enchantress was indeed in a bad situation now. Perhaps he would stop breathing in the next moment. At that time, he wouldn't have any bargaining chips left. Sun Yuchong ordered his subordinates to let Enchantress take the pill, but he didn't dare to leave for even a moment. After confirming that Enchantress's condition had improved slightly, he turned his gaze to look at everyone present. Today, I blew the horn to invite everyone here, mainly to have everyone notarize a matter for me. Alliance Master E, you are the most virtuous and well-respected. I hope that you can fulfill my wish. The Luoyun Alliance's Alliance Master was a middle-aged man with a long beard fluttering in the wind. His skin was fair and firm, and he looked to be in his early 40s, but his cultivation was already at the peak of sea-splitting realm. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people. Chapter 34:21. Hearing this, Ishuasong narrowed his eyes slightly, looked at Mu Yin with a deep gaze, then looked at Sun Yuchong, and said indifferently, "Alliance Master Sun has made such a big scene. I wonder what you want us to notarize." The eyes of the other patriarchs and sect leaders also flickered, but their faces were expressionless. Looking at the vast army of 100,000, no one knew what he was thinking. Sun Yuchong forced a smile. He adjusted his countenance and declared loudly, "I, Sun Yuchong, the leader of the Towering Wave Temple, invite everyone here to be my witness. Today, the Towering Wave Temple and Liberty City are going to engage in a profane wager." What? Blasphemous bet? Is it that blasphemous bet that I know of? Has sect leader Sun gone mad? The person who initiated the blasphemy bet had to bet everything he had in order to be accepted by the beast deity. If the bet fails, the Towering Wave Hall will be thoroughly finished. Someone else was confused. What exactly is a blasphemy bet? The blasphemy bet. The alliance master of the Luoyan Alliance, Ishuesong, was startled when he heard those words. The emotions in his eyes were complicated and hard to read. How many years had it been since he had heard these words? 100 years or 1,000 years? The voices of some old men could be heard from below. The so-called blasphemous bet is a special contract that can only be fulfilled on our floating island. Once it's notarized by more than 5 of the 3 alliances, 6 families and 8 sects, and both parties agree, they will receive the beast deity's blessing, or rather, the beast deity's supervision. The method of the bet and the chips are usually decided by the party who activated the contract. If you win, you'll naturally get everything you want, but if you lose, you'll be instantly thrown into hell and lose everything. Has sect leader Sun really gone mad? If he wants to activate the blasphemy bet, he's going to throw the entire Over the Wave Palace into it. Sun Yuchong naturally heard the discussions around him. However, he sneered coldly, revealing a disdainful expression. What do these foolish mortals know? As the saying goes, seek riches in danger. As long as he won the blasphemy wager, the strength of treading Wave Palace would increase several-fold. From then on, not to mention the other 6 families and 7 sections. So what if it was the 3 alliances and the Lan family empire? Moreover, he was confident that the blasphemy bet he had arranged would not lose. Sun Yuchong turned to look at Mu Yin and said arrogantly, "Listen up, the blasphemy duel is for each side to send out 5 people to participate in a death match. If I lose, the Towering Wave Palace will belong to you. If you lose, everything in Liberty City, including you, must submit to the Towering Wave Palace." Mu Yin looks at him coldly. "Did I say that I agreed to make a blasphemous bet with you? You don't want to bet?" Sun Yuchong laughed out loud and tightened his grip on Enchantress's neck. "Fine. If you don't want to gamble, then I'll fight you to the death, even if the Towering Wave Palace loses half of its manpower. Don't tell me you really think that you could destroy my Towering Wave Palace with just this 100,000-strong army?" Mayan's face is expressionless. Her fingers press on the Tian Mo Chin, stroking it again and again. Her eyes are cold and heavy, as if they've been frozen for 10,000 years. She hated being threatened. However, for the sake of his second sister-in-law, he had no choice but to accept the threat. Sun Yuchong's gaze sweeps over the people of the Carefree School, and the smile on his face deepens. Of course, since it's a wager contract, it's naturally fair. I see that the highest cultivation in your Liberty City is only at the Mountain Opening Realm. Then I'll reluctantly let 5 disciples under the Mountain Opening Realm fight you in the death match. Chapter 34:22. If I defeat you, not only will I save Enchantress's life, but I'll also get the entire Over the Wave Temple. What? You dare to accept it? Sun Yuchong's eyes were full of mockery and provocation. Little girl, do you really think it's so easy to build a city on a floating island? As long as you retreat in cowardice today, even if you have 100,000 troops, I dare say that Liberty City will never have a place to stand again. He was obviously trying to goad her into action. The onlookers also realized Sun Yochang's scheme at this moment. The Over-the-Wave Temple would definitely make a profit in this blasphemy bet, because they had just discovered that although Liberty City had 100,000 troops, there was not a single expert. Even the experts in the mountain opening realm were just 2 or 3. How could such a lineup compete with the Over-the-Wave Temple in a life-and-death arena? It was clearly a losing situation. Leader Sun, what a good scheme. If the blasphemy bet goes through, he'll get a city and 100,000 troops easily. If he wins, he'll get more than 100,000 troops. Have you really never heard of Liberty City? Although this city had only just risen, there was a heaven-defying cultivation treasure inside that could allow one's strength to advance rapidly. If the Over-the-Wave Temple gets Liberty City, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. The master of Liberty City shouldn't be so stupid, right? Why would he agree to a bet that he knows he'll lose? Under Sun Yochang's covetous gaze and the onlookers' heated discussion, Mu Yin slowly withdrew her gaze from the unconscious Yin Chuqing. Her peach blossom eyes slightly raised. Okay, I agree to the blasphemy bet. What? She agreed? Has she lost her mind? Little girl is just a little girl. She can't help it after being goaded. Alas, just wait and see. After today, the Over-the-Wave Temple's strength will soar. Sun Yuchang suppressed his excitement and strode forward, drawing a rune array in the air. Mu Yin also stepped forward and pressed her hand on the rune array, injecting her spiritual energy. The rune array glowed brilliantly. Instantly, it turned into a beam of light that soared into the sky and exploded like fireworks. Mu Yin felt a stream of cold energy suddenly pour into her body. A cluster of white runes appeared in her palm. Mu Yin was astonished to discover that the runes looked a little like the divine beast by Zhe that Luo Yu had summoned. Similarly, Sun Yuchang looked at the rune on his palm and was overjoyed. The first match of the life and death arena began. The plaza in front of the Over-the-Wave Palace was cleared. A short, skinny, middle-aged man leaped to the center of the square and smiled at Mu Yin timidly. I am Wang Mingjiang of the Above Wave Temple. I wonder who in Liberty City is willing to fight me. Miss, let me go. Tai Tu, can take care of this kind of weak sissy with just one punch. Tai Tu patted his chest and looked at Wang Mingjiang with disdain. This Wang Mingjiang's cultivation was indeed not high, only at the initial stage of the mountain opening realm. Moreover, he looked timid and cowardly, without any oppressive pressure around him. As for Butcher, Tai Tu, and the others, their cultivation had already recovered to the mountain opening realm. Butcher had already reached the high level of the mountain opening realm. Therefore, he didn't take this thin and weak sissy seriously at all. A moment later, Tai Tu stood in the middle of the square. Sissy, come. You want to fight in the arena? Watch as I smash your head. Feeling the powerful pressure coming from Tai Tu, Wang Mingjiang shrunk his head. His face was pale from fright, and his body was shivering. Chapter 34-23. Seeing his performance, the surrounding people roared with laughter. Why did Sectmaster Sun send such a coward? Does he want to give Liberty City a chance? Ha ha! However, they soon realized that they were wrong. Wang Mingjiang, who had retreated several steps, suddenly revealed a sly smile. Then, yellow light flashed around him, and a human-shaped puppet appeared beside him. Oh my god! It's a commander-level puppet! If Wang Mingjiang's appearance was wretched and cowardly, if that was the case, then the aura of the puppet next to him was so powerful that it was terrifying. The confident and arrogant expression on Tai Tu's face instantly turned ashen. Sun Yuchang chuckled in a low voice. He glanced at the beautiful girl in front of him. Don't worry, this was just the beginning. Tai Tu lost the first match without any suspense. He walked to Mu Yin dejectedly. I'm sorry, Mississippi. I'm too useless. Mu Yin didn't take it seriously and said lightly, It's fine. I expected it. Next match. Miss, let me go. Butcher took a step forward and bowed to the ground. Mu Yin frowned. Her fingers tapped the Tion Mo Chin lightly, producing a humming sound. Butcher said in a deep voice, "Boss and I are the ones with the highest cultivation in Liberty City, but Boss isn't good at fighting alone. I know that the people from Over the Wave Palace will definitely bring puppets, and I might not win, but I can at least stall for Miss in Liberty City as long as I can." Mu Yin raises her head, revealing a bit of astonishment. "You know?" Butcher smiled faintly, knelt down, and kowtowed to her, then to Wei Mian, before leaping up the arena. Second match of the Life and Death Arena. Over the Wave Palace had sent a high-level mountain opening realm elder, but its puppet's strength was close to the peak of the mountain opening realm, and there were 3 of them. At this moment, everyone finally saw the strength of Over the Wave Palace as one of the 8 sections, a high-level mountain opening realm cultivator, and 3 peak stage mountain opening realm puppets. One could imagine how difficult Butcher's battle was. In the end, he was so badly injured that he couldn't even stand up, but he had delayed the battle for 4 hours. Butcher staggered back to Liberty City's camp. Before he could kneel down, he had already collapsed. Muyin puts a pill into her mouth. Before she could say anything, she heard the man, who had always been firm and unyielding, say in a low, hoarse, and guilty voice, "Miss, I'm sorry. If only I could hold on a little longer." Mu Yin sighed softly and said softly, "No, you've already done very well. But we've already lost 2 rounds, and what you're waiting for, next we won't lose." Mu Yin interrupts him and hands him over to Ruan Yang. Then she slowly steps forward. "Next round, Before she could finish her words, a crisp and tender voice suddenly sounded in her ears. "Mother, can you let Xiao Bao fight in the next match?" Mu Yin abruptly turned around and saw that Xiao Bao, who had been unconscious due to a high fever before, was actually standing in front of him. The Bishia's sword in his hand made a buzzing sound, as if it would be unsheathed at any moment. The third match of the Life and Death Arena began. At this moment, Sun Yuchong was leisurely sitting on the armchair, admiring the terrified expressions of the people of Liberty's sect opposite him. He only needed to win 1 more round, and these people opposite him would all become dogs under his feet. The king-level battle general would be his. The heaven-defying, beautiful supporting zither player would be his. Chapter 34-24. An invincible troop of 100,000 would be his. Ha ha ha. To ensure that the battle would be foolproof, the third person that Sun Yuchong sent out was naturally extremely powerful. "I am Song Yinrue of the Wave Treading Temple. Who dares to fight me?" Hardly had his voice died away when 5 puppets appeared around Song Yinrue. His strength was already at the peak of the mountain-opening realm, and each of the 5 puppets was as strong as him. Also, there were the rarely seen flying birds. Elder Song is going to fight in the third match. It seems that Liberty City is definitely going to lose the bet. Elder Song is young, and he hasn't broken through the mountain-opening realm yet, but he is as famous as the Grand Elders. Its 5 birds roar is not an ordinary puppet, but a whole high-level fierce beast, the golden-winged flame eagle, which contains the inner elixir of the golden-winged flame eagle. Each of them has extraordinary strength, not to mention 5 of them together. TSK. Liberty City is doomed. Whomever they send out, they will surely lose the match. Look, the representative of Liberty City is here. Then the entire square and even the entire Yulin Mountain fell into a dead, weird silence. Someone couldn't help but rub his eyes. Am I hallucinating? Liberty City has sent out a baby? Yes. In front of Song Yinrue, there was a little boy who looked like he was carved out of jade. The boy looked no more than 5 or 6 years old. His facial features were so handsome that he looked like an elf walking out of the morning mist in the mountains. His blue eyes were clear and cold, devoid of any emotion. If one stared into those eyes, they would suddenly feel that they had fallen into a bottomless abyss, and the coldness would be bone-piercing. He was definitely an extraordinary kid. But however extraordinary he was still a kid. The sword that he was holding in his hands was not much shorter than him. His cheeks, which were as fair as porcelain, still carried some baby fat. How could such a baby be a match for Song Yinrui? Had the people of Liberty City lost their minds, or were they really going to give up? Song Yinrui's face was rather awful, too. Is Liberty City humiliating me? Or do they think that I will feel sorry for them after they send out such a baby? What a joke. His malicious gaze swept past the people of Liberty City, and in the end, it fell on Little Bao. Then he laughed softly. Little kid, don't beg for mercy too early. I've already decided to do it in front of them. I'll let them see with their own eyes how you'll be tortured to the point where you're worse than death. Song Yinrui waved his hand. One of the golden-winged flame eagles in the sky rushed toward Xiao Bao. The onlookers couldn't help but scream, "Kid, run. Elder Song is too ruthless. How could he bear to hurt such a cute child?" There were even some people who couldn't help but want to rush over and protect Xiao Bao. However, it was too late. The golden-winged flame condor was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived in front of Xiao Bao. The huge claws opened up, and with just a light swipe, the child's head would be completely crushed. Just at this moment, Little Bao slowly raised his head, looking at the golden-winged flame condor that was rapidly approaching in the sky, and coldly spat out 2 words, "Rabbit." The 2 words couldn't be more ordinary. When they came out of the child's little pink and tender lips, there was even a hint of adorable innocence in them. A white, chubby rabbit appeared and opened its mouth at the whistling golden-winged flame condor. Chapter 34:25. Disappeared. Disappeared. Song Yinrui was dumbfounded. Sun Yuchang was dumbfounded. All the onlookers around the square were dumbfounded. What happened just now? After swallowing the golden-winged flame eagle, the fat rabbit showed a disgusted expression and vomited. Although this kind of food could also replenish energy, it had a rotten smell in its mouth. It didn't want to eat it at all. After the disgusted expression, the fat rabbit turned its head and fell into Xiao Bao's arms. Woo. Too smelly. I don't want to eat the remaining 4. I must be kissed, hugged, and raised high by the little master. Xiao Bao touched the fat rabbit's head and praised in a cold and cute voice. "Rabbit, you did a good job." Woo. The fat rabbit opened its mouth and looked arrogantly at the remaining 4 golden-winged flame eagles. "Come on, it's just a little smelly. This rabbit will pinch my nose and swallow you all." What is that rabbit? Is it a child summoned beast? What kind of summoned beast can swallow such a big puppet? And the golden-winged flame eagle that was swallowed was so big, but where did all the food go? Why is this rabbit still so small? Song Yinrui's face was full of surprise and doubt. At this time, there was no longer the initial contempt in his eyes when he looked at Xiao Bao. He gritted his teeth and waved his hand to activate 2 golden-winged flame eagles. The 2 huge birds flapped their wings and flew toward the fat rabbit. Although they had long been made into puppets, these 2 golden-winged flame eagles still had their original abilities. When they flew in the air, they suddenly spat out a huge ball of flame at the fat rabbit and Xiao Bao below. That's the golden red flame. It can even melt divine weapons. Children, get away. Chirp. A crisp chirp rose to the sky. The fiery red bird spread its wings and spat out a ball of golden red flame into the sky. The ball of flame was small and weak, and when it floated in the air, it swayed as if it would be extinguished at any time. However, when it touched the golden red flame, the ball of flame suddenly exploded. It swallowed the fire spat out by the golden-winged flame eagle in an instant. After spitting out the fire, the little phoenix shook its feathers and flew back to Xiao Bao's shoulder, proudly raising its chin. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Little Ball was just that amazing. Qiu just didn't want to say it. Why? Why is there another one? Is this also a child summoned beast? Heavens! How old was this kid? He already has 2 summoned beasts, and both of them are so powerful. On the floating island, there were 2 types of summoned beasts. One was born with it and would be activated when one reached a certain level of cultivation. The other method was to subdue a spirit beast and turn it into a soul bead. But no matter which one it was, if he wanted to summon it, it would consume a large amount of divine sense. On the floating island, there were spirit masters with more than 2 summoned beasts, but they were usually as rare as phoenix feathers or unicorn horns. Moreover, one would only be able to subdue a second summoned beast after reaching adulthood. But how old was this kid in front of him? How could he already have 2 powerful summoned beasts? After the flames were destroyed by fighting fire with fire, the fat rabbit opened its mouth, and the 2 golden-winged flame eagles disappeared in front of everyone again. This time, the fat rabbit burped and its mung bean eyes rolled slightly. It was too smelly and unpalatable. Chapter 34:26. I can't eat anymore. I really can't eat anymore. Song Yinrui is going crazy. His golden-winged flame condor had been refined for 30 years, and he only got 5 golden scarlet flames. He actually lost 3 just like that. And until now, he hasn't even figured out what the 2 summoned beasts of this little boy are. Song Yinrui looks up at the remaining 2 golden-winged flame condors, his face alternating between green and white. His puppets must not be lost again. So what if the summoned beasts are powerful? A little doll was a little doll after all. As long as he killed the main character, as long as he kills the master, these summoned beasts will soon vanish. Thinking of this, Song Yinrui is about to pull out the long sword on his back. However, it's too late. A sword light slashes through the sky like lightning, heading straight for his face. Accompanying it is the sound of waves that belong to Baixia that others can't hear. Wah! It's finally Lousy's turn to show off. Useless dead rabbit. If you can't eat anymore, then stay far away. Watch Lousy bring the little master to kill in all directions, swallowing the mountains and rivers. The fat rabbit, who was about to faint from eating too much, can't take it anymore. Oh, it calls little Phoenix and directly rushes towards the 2 golden-winged flame condors. Get lost. This rabbit is the little master's #1 pet. You dead sword, you're nothing. In Liberty City's formation, Butcher and the others stare dumbfounded at the little boy who is killing in all directions and can't help but swallow their saliva. We only know that the little master is very powerful, but this power is too. They don't even know how to describe it. Their city lord is already heaven-defying enough, but the son he gave birth to can be even more powerful. A 6-year-old baby can actually defeat Elder Song, who is at the mountain opening realm. Who can believe it? Mayan smiles slightly, slowly loosens her clenched hands, and gently exhales. In fact, this victory was very lucky. In terms of strength, Xiao Bao is certainly not Song Yinrui's opponent now. At first, Mayan didn't agree to Xiao Bao's appearance at all, until she learned from her subordinates that Song Yinrui's puppets were directly refined from golden-winged flame condors with inner cores. And the reason why Song Yinrui has such a great reputation is not because of his powerful fighting strength, but because his divine sense is vast and sensitive, and he can control 5 golden-winged flame condors at the same time to launch various attacks. Muyan immediately realizes that Xiao Bao, or rather, the fat rabbit, is Song Yinrui's nemesis. The truth was just as she had expected. The third life and death arena battle came to an end in a short period of time. Xiao Bao had won, and he'd won in a clean and efficient manner. He'd won to the point that everyone was dumbstruck, and the scene was perfectly silent. The 5 golden-winged flame eagles were swallowed by the fat rabbit one by one. Not even a feather was left. Song Yinrui, on the other hand, was being chased by Xiao Bao and the sword in his hand. It was only then that the crowd realized that Elder Song, who had lost his puppet beast, was actually so vulnerable. Xiao Bao flies back to Mu Yan's side. He raises his little head and looks at her with sparkling eyes, although her little face was still as cold as ice. However, the light in his eyes that yearned for praise almost overflowed. Mu Yan's heart is unreasonably soft. She bends down, kisses Xiao Bao on the cheek, and pulls him into her embrace. Xiao Bao is the best. Her baby was becoming more and more outstanding day by day. No one could cover up his brilliance. She would not allow anyone to hurt her baby. She also wouldn't allow the prophecy that Bailey Lu had once made to come true for Lil Bao. Chapter 34:27. We're really too useless. Without the little master, we would have lost 3 matches in a row. Tai Chue touched his head, his face full of shame, but he couldn't stop admiring Xiao Bao. Rui Nyang said worriedly, "Miss, what should we do in the 4th match?" Everyone knew that Mu Yin was very strong, and she had to be the last one to prevent any accidents. But in this case, what about the 4th match? Who in Carefree City dared to say that they had the confidence to beat the people of Over the Wave Palace? Mu Yin couldn't help but frown slightly. She originally wanted someone to stall for time, hoping to wait for Liu to rush back from the soul cultivation pond. Luoyu's cultivation might not be high enough. But in this world, when it came to playing with puppets, if he claimed to be second, no one would dare to claim to be first. But now it was obviously too late. Chu Moli's calm voice came from behind. "How about I go?" "No." Mu Yin refused without thinking. She was very clear about her 3rd senior brother's situation. In order to send several fellow disciples to the floating island, the injuries he suffered could not be healed with just a few treatments. Chu Moli wanted to speak again. Mu Yin coldly glared at him. "If I say no, then no. If we lose, then we lose. At worst, we'll just surrender to Over the Wave Palace and destroy it." Chu Moli chuckled, not saying anything more. But at this time, a hoarse voice suddenly came from behind. "Junior sister, I'll go for the 4th match." Mu Yin suddenly turned around and saw Qin Jiu, who had woken up at some point. She frowned deeply. "Second senior brother, don't joke around." Qin Jiu staggered forward, opening his mouth to reveal a silly smile. "It's me who wants to save little Qin. I must do my part." The 4th match of the life and death arena was about to begin. However, neither Carefree City nor Over the Wave Palace had sent anyone to the stage. Right now, there was no smile on Sun Yochang's face. He thought that he would definitely win the 3rd match, but he unexpectedly failed miserably. There must be no mistakes in the 4th match. A low and treacherous laugh came from behind. "Sect Master, why don't you let me go for the 4th match?" The one who spoke was a tall, feminine-looking man. Seeing him, Sun Yochang's face lit up. "Meng Ran, you came out. Ha ha, with you around, we'll definitely win this death match." Seeing the feminine man walking into the center of the square, a cultivator behind Zhou Zixuan's expression changed greatly. He leaned close to his ear and whispered a few words. Zhou Zixuan turned pale with fright when he heard this. "Miss, I'm afraid this Meng Ran won't be easy to deal with," he said in a deep voice. Meng Ran is the only cultivator in the entire surrounding Wave Palace who doesn't use puppets, because he can win without using a puppet. Mu Yan's expression turned cold as she turned to look at Zhou Zixuan. "Why?" Zhou Zixuan took a deep breath and said, "Because he possesses a speed that surpasses a peak sea-splitting realm expert. No one could catch him, no one could see his movements clearly, and no one could block his life-risking attack that consumed all the spiritual energy in his body." The scariest thing about fighting Meng Ran wasn't winning or losing, but dying under his self-sacrificial strike. Even a sea-shattering realm expert would lose half his life. Mu Yan's face instantly sinks. Previously, she only disapproved of Qin Jiu's participation in the 4th match. Now, he was determined not to agree. Second senior brother's injuries were severe, and there was still puppet goo in his body that had not been expelled. Chapter 34:28. Asking him to fight such an opponent to the death was no different from asking for his life. Junior sister. Qin Jiu was anxious. He staggered forward, tried to grab Mu Yan. However, Mu Yan had already made up her mind. "Second brother, you don't have to say anymore. No matter what, I won't agree to let you go." Before she finished speaking, a clear voice came from the distant sky, directly into the ears of Mu Yan, Qin Jiu, and Chu Moli. "Junior sister, then let me go, okay?" Hearing this familiar voice, Muyin suddenly raised her head, almost not daring to believe her ears. Qin Jiao and Chu Moli also raised their heads, looking happily in the direction of the voice. However, in the end, the person did not fly over from the sky. Instead, he leisurely walked out from among the thousands of soldiers and horses. The soldiers of Liberty City did not even have time to react. When they realized that someone had brushed past them, they were horrified and vigilant. It was a tall and slender young man. He had a face that looked like it was cut with a knife and painted with ink. His eyes and brows were clear, and when he slightly raised the corners of his mouth into a smile, he looked a bit shy and bashful, like a good girl. But when he slowly walked over, he had a bit of the graceful and heroic bearing that belonged to a young man. Fifth brother, Little Five. Muyin did not expect that Ling Yuxing would reunite with them at this time. Why are you here? Ling Yuxing's eyes were full of brilliant light, like the stars in the sky shining brightly under the moonlight. While I was in a nearby town, I heard that the Over-the-Wave Temple activated some blasphemy bet, so I wanted to come and watch the show. He did not expect to find out that the bet with the Over-the-Wave Temple turned out to be Liberty City when he arrived at Embroidered Net City. Fortunately, he was idle and bored. He could not find any news of his fellow disciples, and he wanted to avoid a certain annoying person, so he came to take a look. Otherwise, he would not even know that his junior sister and the others were in danger. Fifth brother, where on the floating island did you land? Muyin looked him up and down, her eyes revealing a look of amazement. Your cultivation progress is too big. At this time, Ling Yuxing was already at the 3rd stage of Golden Immortal. In terms of cultivation, he was even a little higher than Muyin. What on earth did fifth brother experience during this time? Ling Yuxing glanced at Meng Ran, who was waiting in the square, and said in a warm voice, "Let's talk about this after I return. Second senior brother, third senior brother, junior sister, I will represent Liberty City in the 4th match. Do you have any objections?" Chu Moli showed a faint smile. He picked up the teacup and gently swirled it. He did not say anything. The tense expression on Qin Jiao's face relaxed, revealing a look of relief. She nodded heavily. Mayan presses a hand on Ling Yuxing's shoulder, the corners of her mouth gently curling up. If there's someone in this world who wants to compete with fifth senior brother in speed, then that person's brain must be broken. In this world, as long as they were at the same cultivation level, there is absolutely no one who could be faster than Ling Yuxing. Not a single person. Seeing Ling Yuxing land lightly in the middle of the square, Meng Ran's lips curled into a mocking smile. Liberty City discussed for such a long time and sent such a weakling like you? Meng Ran's voice was very sharp, and when she spoke, she would raise her thumb and middle finger and point at people. She looked both feminine and effeminate. When other people saw Meng Ran like that, they only felt that it was strange, but Ling Yuxing could not help but twitch the corners of his mouth. His eyes were filled with extreme disdain, and he seemed to be avoiding Meng Ran like the plague. Thinking of what had happened to him in the past few days, he could not help but hold his forehead and force himself to forget it. This was an important moment to fight for Liberty City. He could not be distracted. Chapter 34-29. Ling Yuxing had always been decisive in his actions. In response to Meng Ran's provocation, he merely extended his index finger and hooked it at Meng Ran. His expression and movements were calm and indifferent, and his eyes were without ripples, as if he didn't care about his opponent at all. Meng Ran's face darkened. His feet slowly moved across the ground in a crisscross pattern. As his footsteps became faster and faster, his figure began to slowly fade, disappearing in front of everyone's eyes like smoke. A dagger dipped in poison shone with a frightening cold light. Hiss! Meng Ran actually used sacrificial strike right from the start. He wants to put this youth to death. This Ling Yuxing from Liberty City is merely at the peak of mysterious life state. There's no way he can block Meng Ran's attack. Sun Youchang's eyes shone with satisfaction and excitement. He was very satisfied with Meng Ran's performance. You know how to grasp every opportunity, don't waste time, and kill in one strike. Very good. Everyone's gaze was focused on Ling Yuxing. However, all they saw was the youth's calm and unhurried gaze. Meng Ran had disappeared. A dagger dipped in poison glinted coldly. His life could be taken away at any time, but he didn't seem to care at all. Even the people of Liberty City were holding their breath, their hearts in their throats. Aren't Miss and the others worried? If he couldn't block Meng Ran's attack, the fifth brother whom young Miss had just reunited with would die. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, the youth standing in the middle of the square disappeared. Yes, it wasn't like Meng Ran, who disappeared bit by bit like smoke or mist after taking a step. Ling Yuxing's figure disappeared instantly. Only Sun Yuchong, whose cultivation was high and whose eyesight was as good as Mu Yan's, could see the trajectory of him leaving in a flash. Sun Yuchong's pupils suddenly contracted, and the complacent smile on his face completely stiffened. On the square, two figures slowly appeared. Looking at the scene before them, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The handsome young man was holding the dagger that originally belonged to Meng Ran in his hand. The blade glowed with a strange green light as it pressed against Meng Ran's neck. If he took another step forward, his throat would be slit by this poisoned dagger. Beads of sweat rolled down Meng Ran's forehead. His face was full of fear and disbelief. How did you do it? Why are you able to dodge my attack? The smile on Ling Yuxing's face didn't even change as he said indifferently, "Isn't the reason very simple? I'm faster than you." Yes, it was such a simple reason. This youth was faster than him. And it wasn't just a little faster, but 10, 20, or even more. In this world, there was actually someone who could be so fast. Meng Ran's face was ashen. He lowered his head and said, "I admit defeat." The fourth life-and-death arena battle was Liberty City's victory. We won again. Ha ha ha. Miss, all of your fellow disciples are monsters. It's fine if the third and seventh young masters are so powerful, but the fifth young master is not inferior to them at all. In this case, it's a tie of 2-2. Ha ha ha. The next person to fight is our city lord. The towering wave palace is bound to lose. Muyan smiled faintly and was about to go on stage. But right at this time, Sun Yuchong stood up on the opposite side. With a gloomy face, he said in a clear voice, "The fifth match, the person sent by the towering wave palace is Enchantress. Bookmark for easier reading." Chapter 34:30. What? Muyan's step stopped. Qin Jiu, who was sitting on the chair, suddenly stood up, her gaze fixed in the direction of the treading wave palace. Even Chu Moli revealed an astonished expression. How could Yin Shuqing be the one to appear? Not to mention that Yin Shuqing's strength was not strong, and she was currently unconscious. Even if he was awake, would he stand on the side of over the wave palace? Since that was the case, why did the towering wave palace send out Yin Shuqing for the most important match of the life and death arena? While they were bewildered, someone from the towering wave palace slowly walked to the center of the arena. However, the strange thing was that this person wasn't Yin Shuqing. It was a tall and slender woman wearing a mask, but her eyes were dull and lifeless. Sun Yuchong walked forward slowly, staring at the people of Liberty City, his lips curled into a cold, creepy smile. This is Yin Shuqing's puppet. Because Yin Shuqing is currently unconscious and unable to take the field herself, her puppet, Jade Slave, will take the field in her place. If Liberty City wants to win the last arena match, it's very simple. As long as you kill this puppet, it will be your victory. This humanoid puppet is very strong. It's even far beyond the sea-shattering realm. Miss, I'm afraid even you are not her match. It's not just a matter of the human puppet's strength. They had allowed Miss Yin's puppet to fight. If the puppet was destroyed, Miss Yin would also be heavily injured. What a vicious scheme by Towering Wave Temple. Ling Yuxing had just arrived and didn't understand the situation, but he was aware of how tense the situation was. "Junior sister, what do you plan to do now?" Maya knits her brows and is about to speak. Qin Jiu slowly straightened her body and walked towards the center of the square. "Second senior brother, Your injuries have not healed, and the puppet goo in your body has not been completely suppressed. How can you go on stage? Qin Jiao stared blankly at the jade slave in the center of the square, then looked at the unconscious Yin Chuqing in Sun Youchang's hands. Then he turned around and revealed a pale but honest smile to Mu Yin and the others. Old 3, little 5, little junior sister, it's always been you guys, helping me protect me. How could he, Qin Jiao, become a member of the Unfettered Seven? How could he make his junior sister and the others protect and pamper him like that? He was the only one who wanted to save Shaoqing. He was clearly the only one who had offended the Treading Wave Palace. But little junior sister didn't hesitate to send out 100,000 soldiers. In the Xiao Yao school, he wasn't as resourceful as the third brother. He wasn't as fast as the fifth brother. He wasn't as flamboyant as the fourth sister. He wasn't like the seventh brother, who could summon a mythical beast, not to mention the eldest brother and the omnipotent junior sister. He was so stupid, so vulgar, so useless. But her fellow apprentices had never thought of abandoning her. So this time, it was his turn to bear and protect. Qin Jiao grinned. Her voice was dull and hoarse. Little junior sister, I'm stupid. I can't understand any schemes, but I just have a premonition that I have to go. I don't know what to say. Qin Jiao's ability to express himself had always been very weak. When it came to complicated matters, he started to speak incoherently and was at a loss of what to do. But Mu Yin could clearly see the meaning in his eyes. Junior sister, believe me. Mu Yin took a deep breath slowly. With a shallow smile on her face, she declared loudly, Liberty City, the fifth match, my opponent, Qin Jiao. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 34-31. Hearing the name Qin Jiao, Sun Youchang was taken aback. Then the corners of his mouth curled up, the smile on his face becoming wider and wider. Finally, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Interesting, really interesting. The people of Over the Wave Palace couldn't help but look at Sun Youchang. If they lost this match, they would have lost the bet against blasphemy. Why did the sect leader look so happy? Sun Youchang seemed to have seen through their thoughts, smiling mysteriously. Don't worry, we will definitely win this match. Because he held this trump card in his hand, he was sure that he, Sun Youchang, would win the bet against blasphemy. Qin Jiao stood in the center of the square, looking at the masked woman opposite him, taking a deep breath. The spiritual power in his body slowly gathered, a pair of black gold hammers appearing in his hands. He knew that if he destroyed this puppet, little Qing would be injured. But as long as his junior sister was here, little Qing's injury would definitely be healed. Qin Jiao suddenly raised the hammers and smashed towards Jade Slave. Jade Slave was a puppet. When Qin Jiao didn't attack, she just stood there quietly. From the looks of it, it was completely lifeless. But when the black gold hammers smashed in front of him, Jade Slave seemed to have a conditioned reflex, pushing out a palm towards Qin Jiao. Boom! Qin Jiao flew out, falling to the ground and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Second senior brother. A familiar, anxious voice came to his ears. Qin Jiao shook his head, trying to shake off the buzzing in his mind. But his brain seemed to be boiling in an instant. His entire head felt like it was about to explode, burning, stinging, rolling. Qin Jiao tightly covered his head, curling up on the ground. Jade Slave was already walking towards him step by step. She didn't need any magical arts, magic treasures, or weapons. Relying on his sea-splitting realm cultivation base, he only needed a light palm strike infused with spiritual energy to completely crush Qin Jiao's internal organs. But when Jade Slave's hand reached in front of Qin Jiao, it suddenly stopped, because there was a melodious zither sound coming from the side. This zither sound was mellow and pleasant to the ear. It didn't contain any spiritual power, but it was like a pair of gentle hands gently caressing Qin Jiao's body and soul. And as the zither sound continued, the pain on Qin Jiao's face disappeared. Instead, a ray of light was emitted from his chest. Bit by bit, his chest, head, and entire body were swallowed up. This ray of light also became a barrier, blocking Jade Slave's attack outside. For a moment, it was actually unable to advance even an inch. Sun Yuchong abruptly stands up from his seat, his expression sinister as he bellows. Jun Mayan, you're cheating. In the distance, the white-clothed girl played the zither, and her pale lips curled into a mocking smile. Cheating? How'd I cheat? Sun Yuchong said, the life and death arena is a one-on-one battle. You used a musician to assist you. Isn't that cheating? Mayan sneers. Does my zither sound contain spiritual power? Zither music without spiritual power can be considered as support. Why don't you find a musician to assist me? Can't I play the zither on this beautiful Yulin mountain? Sun Yuchong's face alternated between green and white, but he couldn't say anything to refute. Finally, he clenched his teeth and sat back down. Bitch, I'll let you be proud for a while longer. In any case, the result will not change no matter what. Muyin didn't pay any more attention to Sun Yuchong, but her movements of plucking the strings became faster and faster. She really wasn't using spiritual power, but she was using the power of her soul to stimulate the Shun musician skill, wanting to help Qinjiu break through on the battlefield. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 34-32. Now, that Qinjiu was not at the peak of the tribulation. He had no chance of winning no matter what. Only by breaking through to the golden immortal level would he have a chance of survival. But this kind of consumption was also extremely huge for Mu Yan. So as time went on, her face grew paler and paler, and the hand that was playing the zither even trembled slightly. Finally, the sound of a zither slowly rising in pitch resounded. On the battlefield, Qinjiu's body burst out with dazzling white light. A powerful energy emanated from his body. It was the energy fluctuation and pressure that belonged to a golden immortal. He broke through. He actually broke through to the mysterious life realm on the spot. How on earth did he do it? Is it because of the zither music of the city, Lord of Liberty City? I heard that the strength of the entire army of Liberty City improved so quickly because of the assistance of her musicians and elixirs. I've also heard from the people of the Dark Moon Palace that the City Lord of Liberty City is not only a peerlessly beautiful assistant musician, but also a powerful elixir master, and even a doctor with nature-defying medical skills. So it seems that although this Liberty City has just been established, its strength is really powerful. If I can join it, will my strength also improve by leaps and bounds? While everyone was discussing, Qinjiu had already opened his eyes and stood up. His turbid eyes seemed to be ignited with flames, emitting a scorching light. Jade Slave pushed out with her palm, but failed to touch Qinjiu's body, because an earthen wall rose up into the sky, blocking in front of Jade Slave. Although it was called an earthen wall, in fact, it was a bit harder than steel. Even the palm of Jade Slave, an expert in the sea-splitting realm, failed to damage the earthen wall at all. Instead, she was shaken back a few steps. And it was at this moment that Qinjiu broke through the earthen wall with a hammer and smashed toward Jade Slave. This time, Jade Slave was unable to avoid his attack. The hammer hit her face, and the mask that covered the woman's face shattered with a crack. Qinjiu had no intention of stopping at all. The black gold hammer in his other hand was about to smash down like a storm. But the next moment, his movements suddenly froze. Without the mask, the woman's face was revealed. It was a slightly stiff and old face, but it was full of heroism. Qinjiu had clearly never seen this woman before. But the moment he saw this face, an indescribable sorrow welled up in his heart for some reason. The hammer that was about to smash down couldn't be swung down. Jade Slave was also like a puppet that had lost control. He stood there blankly, neither attacking nor retreating. Qin shook its head fiercely. No, he could not hesitate. If they couldn't win this match, what would happen to little Qin? What about Liberty City? How could he be worthy of his junior sister's trust? Thinking of this, Qinjiu gritted her teeth and poured all the spiritual power in her body into the black gold hammer. Power territory was fully unleashed. As the black gold hammer swung, the surrounding air seemed to be smashed open. This was a strike that could truly split mountains and split rocks. As long as it was hit, even if the Jade Slave was a sea-splitting realm puppet, it would still be shattered into pieces. Uh, uh, uh. Just as the black gold hammer was about to hit Yu, Qin heard Enchantress's heart-wrenching cry. He stopped abruptly and turned around. He saw that Enchantress had woken up at some point and was looking at him with tears streaming down her face. Her eyes were full of pain and anxiety. Her hands trembled and kept drawing, but because of her lack of strength and panic, she couldn't completely express her meaning. Chapter 34-33. Xiaoqing, wait for me, I'll save you, However, as he says that, Xiaoqing shouts even more anxiously, tears falling like rain. Qin is flustered and confused, not knowing why she's like this. Just then, Sun Youchang's sinister and smiling voice finally rings out. Qin, do you want to know what Enchantress is saying? She said you can't kill Jade Slave. Oh, maybe I should give her a new name, Yufeng. This humanoid puppet is your biological mother, Yufeng. Don't tell me you want to kill your own mother in front of everyone's eyes. Clang. Mayan, who was originally playing the melodious zither, makes a series of ear-piercing noises. Then, this noise seems to cut apart time and space. It makes the previously noisy surroundings of MT Yulin fall into a strange silence. The humanoid puppet Jade Slave is Qin biological mother. Is this a joke? Mayan's face is ice cold, her eyes coldly looking at Sun Youchang. Her whole body is already unable to control the surging, killing intent, and the deathly silent atmosphere gradually flares up. Yufeng? Could it be that Yufeng that I know? The most powerful elder Yufeng of Over the Wave Temple back then? But I remember that elder Yufeng clearly died from a difficult birth after being seriously injured. Could it be that Over the Wave Temple was actually insane enough to turn elder Yufeng into a humanoid puppet? There are many puppeteers on the floating island. However, most of the puppets controlled by people were made from materials. A few people can capture a powerful, vicious beast alive, but they are powerless to fuse it into their own summoned beast, so they turn it into a beast puppet. And among the puppets, the rarest and rarest are the humanoid puppets. This isn't because the humanoid puppets aren't strong enough. It's because the process of making them is too inhumane. To make a complete creature into a puppet, it can only be done when the creature is alive. But if it's alive, how painful and desperate would the process of being made into a puppet be? So even if Over the Wave Temple is known for its puppeteers, there are only 3 to 5 humanoid puppets in the temple, and most of them were heinous criminals during their lifetime. Death cannot wipe out their crimes. Elder Yufeng is a great hero of Over the Wave Temple. He was actually turned into a living puppet. What's even more disgusting is that they clearly know that Qin is Yufeng's son, yet they still let Yufeng and Qin have a life-and-death duel. Treading Wave Palace is so cruel and unscrupulous. How can it be qualified to be one of the 8 sects? The surrounding crowd was enraged. Some people even shouted, "Sun Youchang, you old dog." The people of Towering Wave Palace who had been insulted all lowered their heads in shame. Only Sun Youchang had a ferocious look on his face. Not only was there no guilt on his face, but it was also twisted and full of hatred. His gaze swept across every single person who had insulted him. Curse all you want. Curse all you want. These people could scold to their heart's content now. He didn't care. As long as he won the blasphemy bet, he would have everything. What's a little bit of infamy? When he climbed to the height of the 3 alliances, or even the Lan family empire, once he grasped power and ruled over the world, what would the barking of these ants count for? At least he would definitely win this blasphemy bet. Ha ha! It was just as Sun Youchang had planned. The last life-and-death duel fell into a deadlock that couldn't be resolved. If Qin didn't kill Yufeng, he could only admit defeat. Liberty City would lose the blasphemy bet. However, Qin killed Yufeng. Even if Yufeng had become a puppet, It was equivalent to killing his own mother. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 34-34. From now on, Qin would carry a heart demon, carry the karma of karma and sin, and might never be able to break through again in this life. This move could be said to be extremely poisonous, but it was also extremely effective. The black gold hammer in Qin hand had unknowingly fallen to the ground. He blankly looked at the expressionless woman in front of him and unconsciously muttered, "Mother!" This person was his biological mother. His brain was not good, and he could not understand many things. His childhood memories also became blurry, and he had almost forgotten them. But even now, he still remembered the pain and humiliation of being bullied, and the envy of those who bullied him. These people all had parents, and their parents would protect them, comfort them, and look at them with the most gentle expression. Why was there only Qin in the world and no mother? Why was it that he had a father, but it was worse than not having a father? Did Qin hate? Probably not, because he was too stupid and did not even know how to hate someone. But every time he thought of the word mother, an indescribable sadness would surge in his heart. Did Qin have a mother? If he did, why did his mother abandon him? Why did she let him be bullied and ridiculed since he was young? But at this moment, a low and gentle voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "Xiao, don't blame your mother. The person who loves you the most in this world is her." That was the voice of Enchantress's father, Tianxiang. That year, your mother was 6 months pregnant, and over the Wave Palace encountered a great disaster. In order to save the palace disciples, Yufeng disregarded her pregnant body and fought against the strong enemies. In the end, over the Wave Palace was saved, but your mother was in danger and was about to die with her child. In order to give birth to you safely, your mother begged me to refine her into a puppet, because only a puppet body could preserve a chance of survival for the unborn child. I was unwilling in every way, but in the end, I could not change your mother's love for her son. Xiao, Uncle Ian knows you do not understand now, but your mother's love for you has already surpassed life and death and the limits of human will. You are able to stand in front of me alive today, all because your mother used her own life to create a miracle for you. Yufeng, your mother really loved you. Those lost memories, bit by bit, returned to his mind. Those feelings that he could not understand because of his stupidity also slowly entrenched in his heart. It turned out that he did have a mother. Not only did his mother not abandon him, but she also loved him so much that she was willing to endure the pain of being refined into a puppet for him. Qin reached out her hand and wiped her face. Her hand was wet. He staggered towards the jade phoenix. Looking into those lifeless eyes, his chest hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. Suddenly, his knees went soft, and he knelt down in front of Yufeng. He knocked his head on the ground 5 times. The jade phoenix was still standing there in a daze, as if it was really just an ignorant puppet. But no one noticed that she had unconsciously clenched her fists. After kowtowing, Qin's forehead was already bleeding, but he didn't even wipe it. He turned around to look at Mu Yin and the others, his eyes filled with guilt. Mu Yin only chuckled lightly and said in a clear voice, "Second senior brother, do what you want to do. No matter what decision you make, all of us will support you." Wasn't it just joining the Towering Wave Hall? He didn't say that he couldn't destroy the Towering Wave Palace and kill Sun Yuchong after joining. What was there to be afraid of? Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 34-35. Ling Yuxing said, "Second senior brother, we support you." Chu Moli smiled and swirled the teacup in his hand. His expression was gentle and refined. But in his heart, he was thinking human puppet? Interesting. After joining Overwave Palace, why not let Xiao Qi refine an army of human puppets? The guilt in Qin eyes was slowly replaced by a happy and warm smile. His empty heart was instantly filled up. Even the suffocating pain gradually faded away. It was the warmth of a family. It was the sense of security of having his family behind him. His senior brother, junior brother and junior sister were all so good and powerful. He no longer had to worry about dragging them down because of his stupidity. Qin revealed a resolute expression. He looked up at Yufeng and said in a low voice, "Mother, this time, I will protect you." After saying this, he stood up and looked at Sun Yuchang. He said coldly, "In the fifth life and death match, I admit, at this moment, the flow of time seemed to suddenly slow down." The noisy MT Yulin quieted down again. Sun Yuchang's face revealed a smile, as if his plan had succeeded. At this moment, a violent explosion came from the center of the plaza. Blood and severed limbs splattered everywhere. The strong smell of blood wafted into everyone's nose. Qin stared blankly at the blood splattering all over the ground in front of her and the severed limbs that had rolled to her side. Her expression was blank like a lost child. The explosion just now was very close to him, but he wasn't affected at all. Only a drop of blood splattered on his face. It was cold and sticky. In Overwave Palace, Chuqing realized what had happened. She couldn't help but burst into tears. For so many years, she and Aunt Yu had depended on each other. Although she was only a puppet, in Chuqing's heart, Aunt Yu was her only remaining relative. But now, Aunt Yu was dead. Chuqing knew this all along. Aunt Yu still had a trace of consciousness left in her body. The two of them clearly didn't sign a puppet contract, but Aunt Yu had always been by her side to protect her. Now, Aunt Yu recognized Qin, so she didn't hesitate to abandon her body, which was already a walking corpse, to help Qin win. Chuqing's crying gradually stopped. She suddenly remembered who was suffering the most at this moment. It wasn't her who had lost Auntie Yu, but her second brother who had watched his own mother die for him without being able to do anything about it. Chuqing wiped away her tears, struggled to stand up, and staggered towards Qin. The people of Treading Wave Palace were completely dumbfounded. Sun Yuchang's face was ashen as he looked at the scene in front of him. He couldn't believe that he had lost the victory that was within his grasp. So much so that he didn't even notice that Chuqing, the hostage, had run away. Qin slowly stretched out her hand and touched the drop of blood on her abdomen. She muttered hoarsely, "Mother, mother, mother, where are you? Mother." Just now, he thought that he had finally found his mother and that he could be filial to her and take care of her. But in the next moment, his mother turned into a bloody mist, exploding in front of him, not even her bones remaining. Mu Yin and Ling Yuxing quickly fly forward and support the tottering Qin. "Second senior brother, how are you?" Qin blankly looked at the two of them. She stretched out a finger that was stained with blood and said hoarsely, I found my mother, but she disappeared again. Mother is bleeding. She must have been injured. Little junior sister, you save her." Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 34-36. Mayan's heart aches, almost shedding tears. Ling Yuxing's eyes redden. "Second brother, if you're sad, just cry." Qin eagerly shakes his head, grabbing Mayan. "Little sister, save mother." "You save her." He lets go of Mayan as he shouts, rushing towards those broken limbs and frantically picking them up. "Mother, it doesn't hurt." Xiao Jio is back. Xiao Jio wants mother to stay by my side from now on. "Mother, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" As Qin speaks, he seems to have gone mad. Holding the broken limbs, he rushes to Mayan. "Little sister, save mother. Quickly save." Before he can finish, a thin figure suddenly rushes behind him, hugs him, and lets out a low sob. Qin stiffens. Chuqing's uncontrollable cries reach his ears. The girl clearly can't speak, but he seems to understand that heart-wrenching voice, filled with pain and comfort. "Second brother, don't be like this. Aunt Yu is already dead, but you still have me and fellow apprentices. I beg you to live well." Mother is dead? With great difficulty, he finally saw his mother, and with great difficulty, he confirmed that his mother loved him. How could she be dead? Qin lowers his head, looking at the tragic broken limbs in his hands. 2 lines of bloody tears fall from his eyes. Mother is dead, really dead. For him, not even her bones remain. Qin Jiu's eyes are stained with blood, and his body begins to tremble violently. His face reveals a ferocious, beast-like killing intent. But the next moment, the sound of the zither resounds, and at the same time, a black light flashes. Qin Jiu's body suddenly trembles, and he softly falls down. Ling Yuxing promptly steps forward to catch him. But Mayan looks at Chu Moli. A black light slowly fades from Chu Moli's hand. His expression is indifferent, but there's an indescribable emotion churning in his eyes. But the voice that comes out is still as calm and unhurried as ever. Little sister is also noticed, right? Second brother should not be emotional at this time. Otherwise, the puppet goo in his body will be activated. Mayan nods, stoops to feed Qin Jiu an elixir, and hands him and Yin Chuqing over to Ling Yuxing. Fifth brother, please help protect them. Ling Yuxing nodded. What about you, junior sister? Mayan raises her hand, and the Tian Mo Qin floats in the air. There's no one playing it, but it emits a pleasant sound. Her lips curled into a cold arc as she said, "The boring, blasphemy bet game is over. It's time to settle the scores. Unfettered army, heed my command." Whoosh! Wei Mian was the first to kneel. He activated his divine sense. The 100,000 soldiers surrounding Mount Yulin received the order and knelt down in unison. Yes, City Lord. Mayan's figure soars into the air, her cold and austere eyes looking at Sun Yuchong, looking at everyone in the over-the-wave palace. Capture every single person from Towering Wave Palace. If anyone resists, kill them. Kill. 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 The deafening roar shook the mountains and the earth. It also caused every single person in the Towering Wave Hall to be so frightened that their faces turned ashen. They fell to the ground on their butts, unable to summon up any courage to resist. Sun Yuchong's eyes were ferocious. He shook his head frantically and roared hysterically. Impossible! Impossible! How could I lose? How could I possibly lose? However, at this time, the cold and emotionless voice of the Luoyun Union's leader, Yishu Esong, came from above. The fifth match, the life and death arena, Unfettered City wins. Chapter 34-37. 3-2. The result of the blasphemy bet is that the Towering Wave Temple loses and Liberty City wins. From now on, Liberty City has a place in one country, 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 major sections. The Towering Wave Temple will become a subsidiary of Liberty City, and its life and death will be decided by Lord June Leader's son. No. Sun Yuchong, you too. No. Sun Yuchong screamed as if he had gone mad. I didn't lose. I won't lose. What blasphemy bet? Someone must be helping Liberty City cheat. I don't accept this result. I absolutely won't admit it. However, so what if he didn't want to admit it? Hardly had Yishu Esong finished speaking when a blue and red light sprang up from the bottom of Sun Yuchong's feet, entangling his entire body. Sun Yuchong, who had been clamoring just now, convulsed. Then he screamed and fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. Yishu Esong sneered, his face full of mockery. Since the blasphemy bet was initiated, it must have been supervised and acknowledged by the Beast God. Now that you've lost, you want to go back on your word. Do you think the Beast God will allow it? Sun Yuchong's miserable state further agitated the disciples of the Towering Wave Temple. The remaining people who wanted to resist withdrew their puppets one by one and squatted on the ground in fear, letting the free, unfettered army tie them up tightly. In the blink of an eye, the once glorious Towering Wave Temple had become yesterday's news. All the disciples of the Towering Wave Temple had become prisoners of Liberty City. The battle had also made everyone present remember the newly built city of Liberty City and the name Junmayan, which they had never heard before. However, when Liberty City was about to take over the Towering Wave Temple, some people couldn't sit still anymore. For example, Gu Tianpeng, the master of the Micro-Moon Pavilion. Right now, he was greedily looking at the disciples of the Towering Wave Temple who had been tied up and piled together. He approached the master of the Clear Sky sect and whispered in his ear, Master Qi, that's the towering Wave Temple, one of the 8 major sects. Not to mention that these disciples are all top-notch in terms of cultivation and talent. Just the amount of natural treasures and secret techniques for making puppets in their treasure vaults alone. Aren't you tempted at all? Qi Menghui, the master of the Clear Sky sect, looked at him mockingly, as if he were looking at an idiot. Before the treading Wave Palace and Carefree City's blasphemy bet had begun. If there was one person present who believed that Liberty City would definitely win, it was definitely the Clear Sky sect. Even now, Qi Menghui still remembered the terrifying scene of that seemingly gentle and amiable young man carrying Elder Wang's corpse and single-handedly killing his way into the Clear Sky sect. The Clear Sky sect has so many people, but when faced with that young man called Han Yi, they don't have the slightest strength to fight back. In the end, they obediently offered up more than half of the treasures in the sect's treasury before this ancestor could leave. Before leaving, Han Yi made it very clear that he came on behalf of Liberty City to demand compensation and mental damage. From then on, the insignificant Liberty City that had just risen was blacklisted by everyone in the Clear Sky sect that they absolutely could not afford to offend. When the blasphemy bet started, everyone thought that the Xiaoyao school, which had no top cultivators, would definitely lose. Only Qi Menghui wanted to sneer. Lose? No top-notch experts? Are you guys dreaming? As long as that young man called Han Yi comes out, he can casually wave his sleeves and exterminate the entire Over the Wave Palace, leaving not a single chicken or dog alive. And the facts completely confirmed Qi Menghui's prediction. The strength of Liberty City is so frightening. They have an army of 100,000. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.